Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to Shio. Happy birthday to
Okay,
me.
ma'am, what the fuck?
Well, it's my birthday, kind of, sort of. Um, and I was just thinking, there's just a lot of anime and manga that we have watched and read over the years that have stuck by us through all of our growing pains to get us to this point. And just a lot of them have had a lot of influences on us.
That's fair.
Yeah. So I think we should talk about them.
You really this is the cold open.
This is the cold open.
I love you, Shio.
I told you. I'm like, "Oh, I have an idea, but it's really cringy."
You're good, we're keeping it. You're stuck with it. This is going on the
It's like
internet.
yep, it is. My god, I was cringing the whole time. I couldn't think of anything, but it worked.
This is what happens when we record early.
Early in the morning and,
Late.
prepping an hour before
Ah,
'cause 100% we didn't just wake up and well, you've been prepped, but I didn't just wake up and prep
yeah,
everything.
I've been up for hours. This is
I'm like,
this is us streaming early for you and us going late for me. So
yeah, which normally it's like the reverse.
yeah, because normally I'm just waking up and trying to be human, and then you're the one wanting to go to bed.
Yes, and now I'm the one that's wide awake. My day's just starting.
All right.
Uh,
Hear
but
the crack of the can.
oh, oops. Yeah, enjoy that, viewers.
Ah,
Uh, but yeah, we were talking about how we wanted to talk about anime and manga that were kind of influential, not not just like on the world, but also kind of on us personally. That
mhm.
kind of help shape us as anime manga viewers. Now, this is different from like my favorites or like our or things that like shaped our anime taste. I would say
Right.
it's more like things that were influential on us. It could be like really impactful or it could be slightly impactful, and it doesn't necessarily have to be good. It could also be bad.
Right.
So they're
And
just like things that have influenced us.
for a lot of mine at least, because this is why it was really easy for me when I think of the most influential things for me, it's things that they hit me at the right time in my life. Like I found this thing at the right moment of my life where it related to me in a way to where I could take influence from it. Because there's probably a lot of things that are influential, but there are things that like okay, this relates to my life right fucking now, and it triggers something. So
Yours might be a little bit more deep than mine.
okay, okay. So I have to preface something on this, okay? Because
Okay.
when we first thought of this, and we're like, okay, we made rules. Number one, no fruits basket.
No fruits
No
basket.
fruits basket. Not allowed. We could go on for hours on it.
Yep,
Not gonna
and it's
happen.
definitely influenced both of us,
Uh huh.
and we didn't wanna talk for well, at this point, we didn't wanna talk for, like,
Yeah.
5 hours about Fruits Basket.
And then we also said a limit to how many we could pick. That way it would
Yeah.
be easier, so we don't have like a giant ass list, especially like we did last time. Um,
Yes.
so when we did this, five automatically came to my head, and surprisingly, Fruits Basket wasn't one of them. But two of them I can't talk about, so I had to replace them
Oh.
because
Uh,
two
oh?
of them are Yu Yu Hakusho and Gurren Lagann.
Oh. Oh.
Yeah. So I had to think of replacements for them. That was a little harder for me because not
'Cause you didn't wanna spoil me.
yeah, because
I'm sorry.
you're good. If the Yu Hakusho thing, it's a very late season for me, so I would have to go because we can't do this without spoiling. So this big spoiler rooming for all these anime we're gonna talk about. But
Yeah.
I
I
can't. I would have to talk about a very late season for Yu Yu Hakusho for me, and then for Gurren Lagann, you know the spoiler that everyone knows about Gurren Lagann. But
Yeah.
what influenced me on that has nothing to do with that spoiler. So I was like, all
Okay.
right. So those two would be here. But finding replacements for those two was a lot harder because I had a lot of like runner-ups that were a lot harder for me to be like, okay. And then one of the replacements for that, because one of my defaults already, I might cry talking about it. Just warning.
Oh.
But one
Okay.
of my
You picked like you went way deeper than I did.
I can't help it. One of my replacements is also possibly going to make me cry when talking about it. So, warning, if I start bawling, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
But yeah, because all mine, and I also ordered mine based off like my age of when I found them. So we're gonna take a journey through my life on this. So I kind of like how you did the birthday thing because it kind of works for me. Because yeah, I over prepared.
My it's so funny because mine is literally is in the order that I thought about them, and was
Fair.
like, "Oh, yeah, there we go, that one," and that is it, that's it. That is what happens when you prep last minute.
Yeah, no, I had mine. I was like, okay. I went ahead and like, okay, well, these are all very different stages of my life when I like they hit me. So like, I can just do them in order, like when I found them. It's gonna be
Yep,
interesting. So it's very weird now
and
because looking at mine is it's a lot more shojo based than it initially was gonna be.
really, mine is surprisingly I only have 1 shoujo on my list,
I
but
have.
that's because I've already talked about the other ones I could pick, like,
Hmm.
a lot, so
Fair.
I didn't wanna pick those again,
Yeah.
so
Uh, I have three shoujo on my list now because I initially was only gonna have one. So, yeah.
okay. I have a fun guess over what one of them is picked, which is funny because if I'm right, then I'll share the one that I have because
Okay.
it's not the same one. If I okay, because I think there's only one of the ones that I picked that you probably don't know, but what I'm going to talk about isn't really spoilers.
That's fine.
So
You're also um again we have very different anime taste on a lot of stuff. Um so there is also a possibility that one of mine I think you've
it's
watched
okay.
I think you've read all the ones I've had, but have on here at least.
Yeah,
And for you though, uh we have very different tastes in anime.
we do.
We are learning that more and more as we go along. We have enough likeness and taste on some things, but we have very different anime tastes. So there's a possibility that even if I don't know it, I probably just will never watch or read it.
Exactly. That's kind of like I'm like, oh, here's this series, but also I don't think Cyan will ever be interested in watching or reading this.
Yeah. Who knows?
So
Maybe you'll sell me on it.
I don't know. I've tried selling this one series and I couldn't.
Now I'm
All right.
terrified.
All right. So am I going first or are you going first?
Your choice. This is your episode, so
Okay, I'm gonna go first then. So I'm gonna go I don't know if you've read or watched this. Um this is it's like a horror suspense thriller kind of sort of that might not be entirely accurate as well.
mhm.
Um it's called Flowers of Evil.
I've heard of it. I it has an anime, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm talking more about the anime version of it.
Okay.
Because I've seen the name back when it was coming out, I've seen the name being floated around a lot, and I was like, "Oh." So when the anime was announced, I was like, "This series has a lot of, like, hardcore fans of it." The, the poster intrigued me because at that time, it was so minimalist, and that was, like, not at all what the anime of that time was like. So I was really intrigued because there was such a small little premise about like, oh yeah, like this guy like runs into this girl and like shit happens, and you're like, okay, that's every anime, I
Mhm.
guess. And it ended up being this like really like psychological horror, not like a horror killer smashing whatever. It was like a psychological horror about perversion and things like that, and it just it really changed my perception of what, like, horror anime could be.
Okay.
Um, it made me realize that there's a lot more to like, because there's always been psychological thrillers, but they're usually crime-related stuff. or is a lot of, like, hacking and, like, guts and blood and things like that.
Right.
Um, Still even outside of the psychological elements. But this is, like, the first one where it was, like, daily life and daily people and ordinary people who you meet can be absolutely creepy. Because the series came out when I was, like, in high school, so, like, this was just kind of my first, like, real realm of interacting with that. I don't
I
know,
just
it was
wanted you
just
to know I looked this up and I saw what date it came out, and you just said it came out when you were in high school. I just now felt my age so hard.
I think I was, like, a senior in high school, though, like, or, like, I just graduated high school probably. It was, like,
uh-huh.
2013, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, so I think I was either in high school or I graduated high school.
Okay.
Um, but so there was that. But the other thing, so Flowers of Evil is also an infamous name because it's an anime where the adaptation of the anime is so different from the manga,
Okay.
and it's a series that a lot of people really don't like the anime adaptation for it.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of
Um,
mixed reviews on it, and that's kind of like the only thing I really remember about it.
yeah, and a lot of it's because they use, rotoscoping in the
Mhm.
animation, and it's a little too lifelike and everything, and people didn't like that, or they just didn't like how different it was from the art that they loved in the manga.
Right.
Now, I had never read the manga at this point, um, so I watched the anime without reading the manga, and
That's
my god.
surprising.
Yeah, I know, right? That is absolutely
That is the
surprising
most
for me.
surprising thing I've heard in like 4 episodes.
But, I was really intrigued, so I watched it, and I was so creeped out in, like, the first, like, 2, like, nothing happens in, like, the first, like, well, stuff happens, but, like, nothing, like, super duper crazy happens in those first 2 episodes, but I was, like, so creeped out and, like, itching my arms, and I don't know what it was so unsettling,
Mhm.
and it was so good. It was doing exactly what it set out to do. It was meant to be unsettling. It was meant to make you feel uncomfortable. It was meant to give you that vibe, and it really encompassed the first time that I felt that anime was art. Like, I mean, I've always loved anime and manga, and I've always, like, been like, "Oh, yeah, it's art," but this is the first time where I really felt that it could be transformative, and it can be something completely different, and you can really use it in a much different ways than what we have seen. You can use it in out of the box ways to really send home certain points.
Mhm.
I just I'm going into without explaining the story because it's not the story that influenced me, it was the adaptation and how they made this anime. Now I went back and I own the manga now, and I've read the manga and I like the manga. It is very different from the anime, but the story is the same,
Okay.
and they are both great as separate entities. Like, I understand where there's that disappointment now, but I also am like, but this anime adaptation is, like, absolutely fantastic, I think, because
That's interesting.
it's set out to it didn't like, the mangaka straight up set out for it to be very different from their work. Like, they were very involved with the production of it, and this is what they wanted. This is the vision they had for this anime, and while it it flopped in terms of, like, sales, I think. Don't quote me on that, I could be wrong about that, but to me, it seemed like it was like a kind of like a flop to the anime community. I think it's one of the most well thought out adaptations in regards to direction, in regards to music choice, in regards to voice acting, and just artistic sense. Like, to me, this is like what anime could be.
Right.
I think that there's not enough anime out there like Flowers of Evil that are experimental in their taste. Now, I will say it's more prominent now. We're seeing more of the experimental kind of anime coming out, but
Mhm.
Flowers of Evil was revolutionary, in my opinion, for its time,
Okay.
and that was influential to me because it really kinda opened the door to be more open to the anime that I pick. It's like, "Wow, that was really different, and that was just really profound," and it made me be like, "Okay, this looks very different, and I kinda wanna pick this up and see what they do with it," but it's also made me more critical of anime too at the same time.
Right.
I was like, now I'm like, okay, now I notice some things more than I used to.
Now, I have one question because since I looked this up and everything, there's a television series of this. Is this related?
Uh, oh, let me look that up.
Because it's of the same name, but I'm unsure because it comes up as a romance as well. So that's why I
Oh,
thought.
yeah, no, that is
Okay,
a
okay,
K-drama of the same name,
okay.
but
Just making sure
it's not the
because
same.
I had both of them up and I was like,
Yeah.
this might be
No,
that would be really interesting if
I
they
don't
made a
think
live
they'd be
action.
able I don't think the people would be comfortable making an adaptation of this, not because, like, anything, like, super like, it's creepy, like, there's, like, things that aren't, like, normal and okay in it,
Hmm.
um, 'cause it is about, like, people's natural creepiness and perversion, and, like, they're hiding that in within themselves and things like that,
It also
um,
does look like it it didn't do bad in the U.S., but it did much better in Japan. So
yeah.
it was one of those, which is pretty common. So
Yeah, which w yeah, especially for the time, because this was, like I would like to say it was during, like, the anime revolution in the United States.
fair, yeah.
Like, the modern anime revolution, because that's kinda when anime started to pick up. It wasn't fully picking up, but it was when it started to pick up.
It's when the internet kind of took over for the anime community for the most part. I think that's
Yeah.
when streaming started becoming very mainstream or more accessible.
Yes, because I remember this was coming out on Crunchyroll at the time.
Hmm.
So, but, that
Wild.
is my influential pick, and that's where I went with this, if that gives you an idea of how the rest of my picks are gonna go.
It's fine. I'm all over the fucking board with this. So
Awesome.
we're great because my first one is actually going to be probably the closest to where you're going with yours.
Okay.
And it's going to be one that I don't think you've watched. I'm almost 90% sure you haven't watched. You also aren't going to give a shit about spoilers. And it's
Okay.
Digimon.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, spoil
So,
it.
so like not only was this like one of the like first anime that I started watching as a kid and that kind of got me into the genre, the medium that is anime to begin with. Yeah, I watched Shaman King and I watched other things when they were on the Fox box and 4Kids and whatever you want to call the television block at that time. But this was the one that really stuck with me. Um, and it's something that has stuck with me so hard that I'm still avidly a fan of. Like the Shaman King readaptation happened, I was really excited for it, but I'm not actively going out and trying to find the next Shaman King merchandise or trying to go out and buy the manga series or trying to find other like adaptations of it. Whereas of course Digimon's still ongoing. There's different versions of the anime that are out now. They've been doing the reboots, they've done the movies, and it's been something that's very present throughout my life as a whole. And it's kind of wild in a way because I'm not gonna be like, oh yeah, 8-year-old me saw how deep and dark and how touching some of these scenes were as a child. Like, no, I didn't get any of that. But going back and watching it, it did tackle a lot of really difficult issues
Okay.
that probably both went over child me's head, but at the same time, like you still kind of retain some of that stuff. Like the original series follows 7 kids that get kind of into the digital world initially and they end up going back to the real world. They get their digital partners, but all these kids are very different. It's a very diverse cast of like you have the jock kid, you have the kind of the musical loner, you have his little brother who's just kind of a kid, he's looking out for his little brother. You have the nerdy kid who's just like tech savvy. You have the nerdy kid that's very book smart and just concerned about his studies. You have the very appearing superficial girl that's she's just kind of blunt and most people kind of think she's selfish, but she's just kind of honest with her feelings. And then you have Sora who's just completely useless altogether. Um, you gotta have a Sakura in the group. It's fine. Uh, I've hated her since I was a kid. I hate her in every versions of it. But throughout the story, like they each have kind of their own backstory that they go into. They have like their own families, their own problems returning back home. Some of them have parents that have split. Some of them have been adopted. Some of them have like a little sister at home that's constantly sick that they worry about being away from. Each has their own individual story background that matches kind of how they grew up and how they are the way they are. And then you get into the second series where they're older and they have a younger generation that kind of takes over for them, but you kind of see that these kids that you grew up with are now older. They're in high school now. And then you get 10, how many? I don't even know how many years it was. Digimon Tri came out, like, I want to say 8 years ago. And it was almost at a perfect time because you were watching Digimon when you're like 10, and these kids are also 10. And then Digimon Tri comes out, and you're, 19, 20, and these kids are like 17, 18, 19. And it's almost space for your time. And then they have a last movie that comes out, The Last Evolution, where they're all in like their 20s, and which would have came out when the audience was also in their 20s. So it's something that has grown up with its audience, and the story for each of these has grown darker. Where I know some people have a problem with Tri because it grows up the way it does, and people are like, oh no, the main character who's supposed to be like the symbol of courage, he's kind of second guessing himself because when they were a kid and these Digimon are wrecking the town, they're just like, oh, we're fighting evil, it's no big deal. You're focused on the battle and the doing the good thing as a kid, but you don't really see the big picture. And then in Tri, there's a scene where a Digimon comes to the real world and is destroying the city. They pan over a shot of a bridge that has collapsed, and it's really fucking dark because you see bikes trampled right there. You see a child's toy, and like they don't actually show anybody that died, but you see the main character see this, and then after that he starts hesitating. Whenever he starts fighting the guys in the real world, the Digimon in the real world, he's hesitant to make his Digimon evolve because he doesn't want to cause more damage. And it deals with him kind of going past that. His friends kind of go up and like, dude, if you don't stop him now, it's going to be even worse. You have to do a little damage to stop the bigger damage. And a lot of people hated that. People were like, oh no, why would he hesitate? He's just supposed to be like stupid protagonist. I don't care. But I saw that and I was like, that shows how little we see as a kid and how much more a picture does for you as an adult, how much more you take in the world around you. And the fact that it did that fucked with me in the first movie for Digimon Tri. And it gets darker and darker as you go on through the movies as well.
Wow. Well, I mean, that's really amazing because really, any kid who was to witness those kind of see something like that is going to be affected by that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's just good character continuity.
It is, and they deal with that a lot in the Tri movies because even the Joe, who is the more studious one, the one who he was always concerned about his grades and going back to school when he was trapped in the digital world and having to fight all these monsters, he's now taking entrance exams for college and he wants to become a doctor. And all of a sudden, the Digimon are back, his partner's back, they have a new enemy to fight, but he knows once this fight's done, his future's still on the line. He still has to go to college. He still has to finish his dream. So he has to make the choice of whether to fail his entrance exams, basically, and stop doing the studying, which he's already struggling with on his own, and to like let his friends handle all the fighting on their own, or to help them back up. I confused myself. To let his friends fight on their own and like get his college degree and everything he wants to do, or to give all that up. Like he has to pick a side, and he struggles with that for a while. And even his digital partner, like the digital partners do speak. They're on individual beings, and they kind of are exactly what each individual tamer needs. So his partner is not pestering him to go fight. Whenever they get a call, like a new Digimon appear, he asks like, oh, do you want to go fight? And Joe says, no, I gotta study. Gomamon's like, okay, I'm gonna bring you food. I'm gonna like help your mom around the house. Like, I'm gonna make sure you have snacks. I'm gonna be here to support you. And then when he realizes that his presence is like hurting Joe, and like he realizes that Joe's struggling because he sees Gomamon there every day and he thinks that Gomamon wants to go fight, which he does. Gomamon just leaves. Gomamon's like, I don't want to be a burden to you, so he just leaves and goes to hang out with the other Digimon and tells them like, don't tell Joe I'm here. I just don't want to be a burden to him anymore. And it's little things like that that build up that show they have real world consequences in this. This isn't just like, oh, they're, the
It's
heroes
not
that
just
save
the
the world.
monsters of a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there is life after the monsters are defeated. And it tackles that really well. And this is just the Adventures series, mind you, which is the one I initially grew up with. You can go into Tamers, which is the second series that happened, and they have an entire character whose dad is fucking abusive to her, and she has this little puppet that she talks with to kind of like pretend that she's happy and cheery because she doesn't really have friends, so she's kind of trying to cope with it on her own. And then she finally gets a digital partner, and her digital partner gets killed right before her eyes.
Oh.
It's Digimon does not fuck around. It really doesn't. And she has an entire arc where her depression ends up being the reason she's used by the big bad at the end to turn her against her friends, essentially, because she's just she has nothing else. Her dad's a fucking asshole, and her digital partner's gone. She's just empty at that point. So Digimon has a lot of dark themes that has made it hold well in the times. It's not something I highly recommend to people just because, yeah, it's dated, but for those that grew up with it, it holds true for us, and that's why the Digimon fan base is as strong as it is. It's because it's not something that we just watched as a kid. It's something we've grown up with. That's my Digimon rant. I finally get to do that.
I don't know. Of all the times you've been friends and you've talked to me about Digimon,
Mm-hmm.
how is it that this is the only time you've managed to sell me on Digimon?
Because I've never really tried to sell you on I generally don't try and sell people on Digimon because it's like, it's kind of really dated. If you go back and watch the original anime, it's very, very late 90s, early 2000s children's
Yeah.
cartoon. It does have the deeper elements to it that are there, but it's also a 4 kids dub. It's
I mean, if I were to watch it, I would not be watching it in dub.
yeah.
I would be watching the sub.
I looked through it with the glaze of the 4 kids dub because I could not watch it otherwise, because the 4 kids dub has a lot of really sarcastic, dry humor in it that the original Japanese does not. It's very much more serious. It's much more like toned down, which is fine. But I can't watch it, so I can't talk about that form of it, and that's simply because of my nostalgic hold to it. It's very hard for me to be unbiased against that, but also every time I bring up Digimon, it always turns into a Pokemon argument in the past. And I know it wouldn't with
Yes.
you. I know it wouldn't with you because you don't care about either one. But
Nah.
and Digimon fans know this. We have lived our entire lives being Digimon fans, being told Digimon is just knockoff Pokemon. And we know it's not true. Even when we were kids, before we knew why it wasn't true, because they came out the same fucking year. They are both monster capture games, which the first of that was Shin Megami Tensei, which is I believe an 80s video game. There are other games that predated that. It's a losing fight that we've kind of all just accepted that we're sick of, and we just don't enter the conversation anymore. I am probably one of the most vocal about it because I've just gotten kind of pissy at Pokemon fans, and I don't mind pissing them off. But yeah, you will notice like a lot of Digimon fans just, we don't try and sell people on the product on it anymore. We just enjoy it, and we enjoy talking about it, but we don't push it anymore. And it's a hard fandom to be a part of simply because of the time it came out and the similarity in names.
No, I can see that because I don't know, because like you said, when we usually talk about it, we're usually talking about Pokemon versus Digimon, but not like in an argument sense.
Yeah.
Um,
Because it normally comes up because I'm normally fighting with some Pokemon fan in my chat
mm,
talking about like, oh, you should play the Pokemon games. I have no interest in doing so.
um, but I think this is, like, the because I remember, like, a while back, like, you were watching the movies with
Hmm.
friends in the Discord, and I popped in at the end, but I had no idea what was going on. And I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't really paying attention because I didn't know what was going on, but now I'm just kinda like, "Oh, wow, there's actually a lot of, like, really interesting." I love, like, the character growth and of
Hmm.
things like characters of things that happen like that. So I'm like, "Oh, that actually sounds interesting to me." If it wasn't for the fact that it's like a that it has that monster of the week elements to it, I'm
Yeah.
like, "Dang, I would probably sit through and watch this if I didn't have to sit through
Which it
also the monster of the week episode."
which it doesn't really have. It's pretty streamlined, and
Mhm.
there's is a Digimon Adventures 2020, which is a reimagination of the original Digimon. It's different, but it's kind of the same.
Okay.
But it's newer animation and everything. New evolutions, a slightly different story. But the movie you're talking about, so the movie we watched was not the Try movies,
Okay.
nor was it the Last Evolution movie. The movie that happened is literally Digimon the movie, which is not a movie. It is the most complicated thing. The movie is the hardest thing to fucking explain. So, the movie is essentially three things in one. They took it was like a short story that came in with like some box set or with like a release of a VHS or something at the time, which is a prequel to the Digimon Adventure series. And then it's two other, I believe, OVAs that actually do tie in together in a way, but they're supposed to be viewed separately. And they just mushed all three of these stories together and made it into a movie.
Oh.
They are, you know, streamlined. So you have the initial movie, which is the prequel, which is an event that is talked about in the first series of like the first sighting of Digimon in the real world, but it's never really like expanded upon. So this is the little short that kind of expands upon that. The second part is something that happens in the middle of Adventures 02, which is not the second version of Digimon, but it's just the second season of Adventures. It's called Adventures 02 because it came out in 2002. Uh,
Okay.
yeah,
A very original naming.
yes, very common around that time though.
It was.
And then the after the movie after that is at the end of Adventures 02, which is basically the bad guy from the second movie that's in there infects a Digimon partner from across the world, and he becomes the bad guy, and it deals with that struggle. So they're connected, but they're supposed to be individual. America is just like, hey, we want to make this a theatric release, so here's a movie. Pokemon had a movie, y'all have a movie. Be happy. So that was the movie we watched. And the main reason we watched it is because the second movie is by the same person that did the movie Summer Wars. And there's a lot of inspiration from that. You can see like the digital world or the internet that they created in Summer Wars is very similar to what they did in that Digimon movie. I know way too much about Digimon, by the way.
You do, you know a lot about Digimon. I'm sitting here, I'm like, I'm not gonna lie, half of what you're saying goes, like, through my brain, and I'm like, "You said a bunch of Digimon things."
I
And
know.
that's how it processes my brain, so I'm like,
So,
whatever I but the thing that's going to stick with me is what you mentioned about the story, like,
yeah,
that I'm gonna remember that,
which
because that is sounds
I
good.
I posted panels on Digimon, which is why I speak about it
You
so
know so
much.
much.
And which is
Yeah.
also why I'm only speaking about adventures on this as well. Because if I wanted to deep dive into Digimon, if I wanted to go into the video games and all the very iterations of the series, we would be here for fucking hours.
It would be one giant Cyan rant and me sitting here in silence going, "Digimon, beep boop."
Yep, pretty much. Because there's some series that are connected, some that are in alternate universes. There are some that they turn into the Digimon.
So
Uh,
there's just a Digimon cinematic universe is what
Pretty
I'm
much.
learning.
There is, and I'm going to hate myself for saying this. I am really gonna hate myself for saying there is a series that is basically a Digimon isekai.
Oh.
But it is not the one that everyone says is the isekai, because everyone says that the first season is isekai because they get trapped in the digital world, but they're only in the digital world for like 8 episodes. trapped, and then they go back to the real world, and then they just transfer back and forth to it. So, not really. There's a series where they actually do get stuck in the digital world and they turn into Digimon and they're stuck in the digital world for the entirety of the series until they return home. It is also the most hated Digimon series to date by most of the Digimon fans. I like it,
Oh,
but most people hate it. Yeah, Digimon gets weird.
yeah, but it sounds like it's a fun time though.
Yeah, I love it. Again, like it was my introduction to anime. It's I'm still watching it now. There's a well, I think it just finished the Digimon Ghost game,
Mm,
which is the newest series. Absolutely amazing. Actually, you could probably get into Ghost Game without even having to go back and watch it because most of the series work very well as standalones. They
okay.
introduce their own world very well. Yeah, your second pick before I continue
Mm.
talking another hour about Digimon.
So, um, gosh, this is complete whiplash in mood, uh, and reasoning. It's almost like the no, I wouldn't want to say it's the opposite, but so I want to talk about for most influential anime on myself is Watamote.
Oh my god.
I bet that's not one you expect. Or
I'm about to hit
Watamote.
stop record and leave.
Watamote. No matter how I look at it, it's you guys' fault I'm not popular. No, I have a
Damn
good
right it
reason.
is.
So I have a very good reason why I picked this. Um, so um, so when this came out, I at this point I hadn't had like friends who liked anime. Except for like a few people I talked to like online.
I have concerns because you have a brother.
No, it has nothing to do with it.
Okay.
Um, okay.
I'm just like picturing your brother as the brother in that series now, and I don't like it.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. I could probably give you other characters my brother's like. That's not one of them. um, but what oh gosh. So when I watched this series, I died so much inside because I hated how much I related to her to a degree that I was like, "Oh, I'm a problem.
Of
I need
all
to
the fucking characters in the fucking world that Shio decided to go, she liked me for real, for real. You picked that?
Think about it. I was a shut-in closet anime weeb. She's not a closet anime weeb, but and when it came to anime, like that no, it's been a while since I've watched it, but I was just like, "Oh, yeah," like, when I come in and get introduced, like, to meet other anime fans, I'm gonna be, like, anime popular, because, like, I like anime and I think I'm kinda cute. This is, like, high school Shio, right? This is not a mindset I have now, this is, like, 10 years ago. But,
I sure hope not.
I thought it was hot shit. And I watched this anime and I was humbled real fast. I was like, "Oh, no, that's not" whether you have it in terms of just regular popularity or in, like, popularity against, like, your fellow peers, not a good take to have. It this I have not finished this anime because of how much it, like, physically, like, not physically, I'm sorry, it couldn't physically hurt me unless you throw the DVD at my face.
I'm
Um
physically hurt hearing this right now, so
But, like, it hurt. I was, like, cringing so hard. I didn't know you could watch something and cringe so hard and feel so ashamed of yourself while watching something. This anime is the reason I did a full 180 look at my life and my personality, and I completely reworked myself. I wanna go back and watch this because I feel like I'd be okay watching it now, but at the time, I when I watched this, I was like, "Oh god, I'm a problem. I need to go fix myself, excuse me."
yes, you do. You know what I want? You know what I really want to see now?
What?
Did you get to the scene where she tries to do the duck face in the mirror?
I think so, yeah.
I want
I watched this in anime club, so I've seen, like, most of it in, like, passing. Um,
I need art
But,
of
like
your avatar doing that weird ass fucking duck face she does when she's trying to look cute and cool.
that's probably exactly what I look like too.
There are 3 scenes that stand out to me from that anime. I watched all of it. I watched all of it in an anime club, and I was the only
But we
one in the
both
anime.
watched it in Anime Club.
I was
Hell
the
yeah.
only one in the anime club that apparently had a problem with it.
What? No, everyone was making fun of it. They're like, "Ha, like, that girl's cringe. Ha, ha, ha," and I'm sitting here, I'm like, "I am
We
cringe.
had
Oh
very
my
different
god."
anime clubs.
We did, and I was just like, "Oh my god, I am cringe.
But
Oh my
there
god."
are 3 scenes, and it's the duck face scene, it's the one where she has the massager and her brother walks in, or her I think her brother walks in. And then there's the weird scene where she's asking her brother why he's cool or how to get cool, and he's just like, leave me the fuck alone.
Okay, that's I did not relate to that in that aspect. My brother is not cool. He likes to think he is. He's not.
Oh my god. Her
Uh,
brother just looked like him, just like a dude with short hair and not cringe.
wait, hold on, let me look at her brother. Nah, her her brother's too normal to be my brother.
Oh my god. Yeah, he doesn't have the big anime eyes.
Oh my.
Oh my god. I'm also I'm taking us back a couple episodes when we had the red flags and I brought up the topic of like cringe cosplays that could be a red flag.
This is one of
And
them.
I brought up the L cosplayers. The female equivalent are the people that cosplayed as her.
Yeah.
Because there were a lot of them when that anime came out, and God, it hurt me watching them because they would actually like do the weird poses she would do, and I'm like, these people exist.
Well, and you know what's the most wild thing is this manga is still ongoing.
I did not need to know that
And
information.
it actually sells pretty well still.
I did not need to know that information, and my faith in the anime community is already dwindling, ma'am.
Yeah, no, I think it, like, ends up on, like, the sellers list every time a new volume comes out, but when a new volume comes out, it's, like, far and few between.
Oh my god. I'm rethinking a lot of life decisions right now.
But, that's why this is influential on me, though. It made me do a complete 180 of me, and thank God I watched this because it set me on the right course.
You know, if that's what it takes for you to not be like her, fine. But oh my god, my head hurts now.
Yeah, I remember, like, in the past, you're like, "Yeah, we would've been when we were, like, younger, we might have been good friends," and I'm like, "I don't know about that." I'm like, "I don't know about that, I was pretty bad."
Oh my god.
And now you're like, "Yeah, maybe you're right about that."
We met at the right part of our lives, that is for sure.
That is for sure.
Oh my god.
But mind you, like, this like, how I relate is, like, I was a closeted anime weeb. Like, people knew I liked it, but they didn't know how deep, and so that was, like, the part that was different, I would say, because she's
Mhm.
definitely not a closeted weeb by
Okay.
any means. So, that would be the difference. So
Yeah. Oh my god. I feel like there's two sides of a not closeted weeb, and it's either Marin or it's that chick.
yeah.
The out otaku stereotype is one or the other. You're either that chick or you're the super cute, but I'm only into like hentai stuff. Marin. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. Whoa, this took a turn that you were not expecting.
That we are 15 minutes into this, and goddamn. All right.
I didn't think I'd make you speechless today.
Ugh.
Ah.
Yeah, we went different routes.
I was like, "Oh, we went different routes."
We went very different routes.
We did. We definitely did. I don't think the other ones will be as, like, gut-wrenching for you as,
I hope not. I really hope not.
as this one is. But,
Ugh.
you're good with to go with your second one whenever you're ready.
My next one's also kind of deals with like being kind of I guess, an introverted anime fan. So it kind of fits. This one I found around the time when I first started getting more into gaming.
Okay.
The one little brief time in my like teenage years where I actually had internet, and this was around the time when I was mute. So I didn't know I was mute for 3 years. I didn't speak, and I spent a lot of my time online in chat rooms, talking about anime, playing video games, and I don't want to admit this, but I played a disturbingly amount of time in Diablo 2.
Okay.
It's the only MMO I have ever played, and the only MMO I ever will play. This was also around the time I was in like Gaia Online, to bring it back to that, because
Yeah.
yeah, I was into the gaming, I was doing all that, and I was having a good time with it. But most of the anime I ended up watching back then, I was very like, I'm still a shonen whore. I openly admit that I am. But back then, like, everything I watched was shonen. I gave zero shits about anything that wasn't like beat 'em up action shonen, battle shonens. I was all for that. There were fight scenes, I wanted to see it, and then the occasional sports anime. Like I watched stuff like Prince of Tennis and Slam Dunk and stuff like that. But it was never stuff that was super serious. And then this was kind of the exception. And it's Dot Hack Sign.
Ooh.
So a lot of people, this is my biggest gripe with Sword Art Online, because a lot of people just think of Dot Hack Sign as a precursor to Sword Art Online, because they think it's a similar concept, being stuck in a video game, blah, blah, blah. They are extremely different.
Yeah.
Have you ever watched it?
No, okay, so I own one of the light novels that I've read, like, volume 1 a long time ago, and I don't remember anything of it.
Okay.
Um, but I have heard a lot of people talking about it in panels, so I know how much of an influential series this is.
Yeah. So, Dot Hack Sign, while there is a character who is stuck in the game is called The World, by the way, to avoid any confusion when I say they're in the world, or anything referring to the world. The world is called what the game is called. Getting that out there. So, the character Tsukasa is stuck in the world. He can't get out. But he is not the pillar focus of the main story for the most part. Like that, you're not seeing the story through his eyes for the most part. You do get scenes of him in the very beginning every now and then, but the main focus is generally, I believe her name is Mimiru. She's the heavy blade, and she's the one that you kind of follow her for the most part in her interactions with the other characters, her trying to get close to Tsukasa, her trying to figure out the mystery behind it and why he can't leave. So, while Tsukasa's story is very important, especially later on in the series, the thing that Dot Hack does really well is it emphasizes the different reasons why people play video games and the very different types of people that play it as well. Mimiru is basically, she's a high school kid. She kind of plays it just because she's bored. She doesn't really have a lot of friends. She doesn't want to go out to the mall, and she doesn't really fit in with that group. So she goes into the world and she plays the game. And it doesn't do this with a lot of exposition. It's one of those things where they will be having a conversation in the game, and you kind of pick up bits and pieces, and every now and then you'll get like a black and a white scene where that's the real world, and you don't ever see their faces, but you hear them having conversations or something, and you pick up little hints over time to try and figure out, like, okay, this is this person and this is what they do in real life. You have another character who is Bear, who is a divorced father, and he plays the game to try and get closer to his son, who is basically only ever reaching out to him to get money out of him, because he's like, yeah, mom lets me do whatever the fuck I want, you give me money, just leave me alone, kind of thing. And Tsukasa, the one who's stuck in the game, has no interest in actually leaving the game initially, because, spoilers, sorry, Tsukasa's in a very abusive situation at home, where dad is very abusive to them, so when they get stuck in the game, they see it as like, I'm free of that. I don't have to deal with that anymore. You even have other characters like Subaru, who's introduced. She plays the game very heavily, but she can't walk in real life, but she can walk in the world. So she uses the world as a surrogate to like actually experience things she wouldn't be able to do normally because of her handicap. Like it does all this very well to show like these people get lost in this game for very very different reasons, but there's still a life to be had outside of it. And I was so absorbed into video games at the time. I was going to work and I was coming home and I was playing video games. And I didn't really have any interest in doing anything else. I didn't, talk to anybody. I didn't really have any friends or anything. So watching this kind of like opened my eyes a little bit of just like, all right, I might be using this as a scapegoat. I might need to go touch grass.
Oh.
Way before like that was actually a thing. But yeah, it deals with a lot of, again, this was another one that deals with a lot of darker themes throughout it. But the thing I think it does really well is it doesn't do it with a lot of exposition, because to understand how this anime plays out, you have to understand that they initially wanted to make a video game. They wanted to make an MMO. And to advertise that MMO, they made an anime. And so they don't explain how this MMO works. They don't explain anything in the world. There's no exposition of like, oh, this is this class, and this is how this class works, and this is their spells, and this is like the guild halls, and anything like that. They expect you to kind of already know this because it's rudimentary enough to most MMOs that's like, if you have any understanding of how video games work, you can just do it. So your focus isn't on learning about the world, your focus is learning about the characters instead. Which makes it kind of a very slow build, but once shit starts to get going and you start understanding like the big overall plot, which is this hidden entity within the game that is the reason why Tsukasa actually can't leave, and why Tsukasa has this magical power and blah blah blah. Like, once that shit starts taking off, it speeds up a lot. But the earlier portions of this anime are very slow and very dedicated to like you trying to pick up these different characters and why they're here.
Yes.
So it's really good, but so many people get into it like thinking they're gonna get like a Sword Online action-packed anime series, and you're not gonna get that out of this. You're gonna get a lot darker series.
Yeah, this is not what this is about. Like,
Yeah.
there's a reason this series is referenced a lot as being really revolutionary for its time.
Yeah. Also, fun fact, for anybody that's interested in this, because if anybody's watched this and didn't dive in deep into it, in Dot Hack Sign, there is a character that is killed off because Tsukasa has a power that when he attacks somebody, they go into a coma in real life. They are deleted from the game and they go into a coma in real life.
They die in the game, they die in real life.
They don't die, they just go into a coma.
Same thing. No, not really.
Basically.
No,
but yeah, so he does this and he does end up attacking somebody. And that person is gone from the game altogether. There's a second series to Dot Hack Sign that came out not long after called Dot Hack Root. The main character of that series is that character that after he wakes up out of the coma, he has no memory of anything that happened. He knows that he used to play this game in an older version before he went into the coma, and he knows like of course he still has like the headsets and everything like that. So he kind of goes into the game to kind of see what it is, but most people don't realize that's the same character like from the first series that quote unquote died in the game. Like he comes back with no memories, and it's I think it's a cool little like circle they built there to bridge the two series. So, I like things that come full circle. If that's not obvious with me and Digimon and liking things being linked together, I like series that like continue on. They have different iterations with different characters, and they still have a way to link them together in a way. Makes it fun.
I think like I can tell you really like that because I think because you mentioned something when we watched the final Eva movie,
Mm-hmm.
And I remember you freaked out because you're like, "They're linked. It's come full circle, everything is linked!" And you freaked out.
I
Um
love that. Yes, I that because they did it in a way where it's like, okay, you can either take it as them being linked or they can be separated. But I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
because I like if you're going to do a adaptation of something, I would rather you not disregard the previous adaptation. I know sometimes it's not possible.
Mhm.
Um, so I get really excited with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because I
You
like
were losing your shit. It was so awesome. I was like, because for me, there were certain things you've seen that I hadn't seen, so I was
uh
like, "Oh, and that knowing that actually made my experience better watching the movie because
mhm.
I didn't put that together. Because it's been so long. Because while you rewatched all the movies, I was like only there part of it. I was only half paying attention because I've seen them before.
Right.
But like you mentioning that really tied everything together, and I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh shit, it is, isn't it?"
I was so excited. I rewatched all of those a while back, and I was like, still gushing. I'm like, oh my god, this links into the end. This links into the end. Eh, I
Yeah,
nerd
no,
out about
I
that kind of stuff so hard.
you're good. It made me smile when we were watching it, and then, like, it made it to me, that's what made that adaptation even better, so
Yeah, I like
thank
stuff
you.
like that, and I like things that reference like mythology or religion in different ways. And Avon does that a lot. Even though I don't look super deep into it, but when they start mentioning, people's real names and like their symbolism, I'm like, oh, I like that. I like that so much because I know the history behind it. Because I, apart from other anime podcasts, I also listen to a lot of mythology podcasts and a lot of like legend podcasts. So I know a lot of tidbits about stuff like that.
You just listen to a lot of podcasts in general.
I end up working jobs where it's like if I listen, I'm allowed to listen to music while I work. Um, but if you do that 5 days a week for like years, you're going to eventually get burnt out on listening to music. So I started listening to
Yeah.
podcasts a lot, and it helps time go by a lot faster because it's like, okay, hour-long podcast, an hour's gone by. I finished an episode. You know, it helps.
Yeah. You make me jealous because there's no way I could listen to a podcast, much less music when I work. I would get so distracted, and I wouldn't be able to think.
You do not want to work graveyard shifts. It's fine.
Oh, I mean, I used to work graveyard shifts.
Yeah,
I don't wanna ever do it again.
yeah, it's a
Um,
nightmare. All right,
yeah, they mentioned it at work, and I was like, "Nope, never going back."
fair.
Uh,
All right, you're next. You're third.
yeah, so for my 3rd this is the one that I think I've mentioned before briefly,
Okay.
I'm gonna talk a little bit more in depth of why this is influential on me. Um, and you guys have to give me the chance to explain myself too. So, um, I put bunny drop or Usagi drop.
Oh God.
But you have to there's like a few reasons for this one.
Go
Um,
on.
so for those who don't know, Bunny Drop is a story about an older guy who ends up taking in this girl who's presumed to be his father's kid. So he's like, "Oh, my father had like this kid and his father died and no one knew about this kid until after he died." And so he ends up taking her in. There's a lot more going on that you find out later, but essentially it's a story of a guy kind of throwing himself into fatherhood without because he's kind of taking pity on this girl who's
Mhm.
like a young girl. So, um so that is the premise. Now the reason why we go, "Oh God," is because the spoilers for the end. It turns into like a romance between him and the daughter.
Yeah.
So that's why. So the first reason why this is influential on me is that I have learned that you cannot trust a manga just because the premise is good. You can't just trust that it's going to take you to where you expect it to go, because they can sometimes throw you a curveball. So, uh, that is one thing that this has done, and I think that that's a lesson that everyone needs to have.
Mhm.
Um, so that's probably the most minor impact of it. There is oh god, there's so much I could say about the series. This is also like a token, like the anime is better than the manga series because the anime doesn't cover any of that crap. I mean, any of the stuff in the later series. the later
Thank
half.
God.
Yeah, thank God. So you can enjoy the anime and like the anime with no problems whatsoever.
Yeah.
Um,
You, the
but I
listener, can enjoy it. I will not. I avoided
yeah.
it for other
Yep,
reasons, and I heard of the drama later, and I was like, oh, I
yeah.
dodged a bullet.
I know that this is not something that Cyan will ever watch because
Nope.
this is not here. But this is the same series though that also got me interested into the genre of someone becoming going into a parental role, when they were not prepared to be in a parental role at all outside of, like, pregnancy, like, taking in a kid or, like, found family kinda thing, but
Mhm.
with kids. I don't know, I just really like those series for some reason. I like, there's other series like Love So Life, Clock Babysitter, well, yeah,
Mhm.
Baby and Me, ba you can even say Buddy Daddies. This whole, like, little weird genre, I would say. Maybe not even a genre, maybe like a tag would be more accurate to say. This series is the one that kinda got me into that because I really thought it was really cute and I really liked it. When I was, like, done with the anime, I'm like, "I kinda really like this, I want more." Now, I think this series though so this is the thing you're not going to like. I think this series is also the series that kinda normalized age gaps for me. Now, for the listener listening, you I have to explain this. So, I kinda grew up a little sheltered. Think both of us did.
Yeah, very.
Um, we both grew up kind of really sheltered, and then, like, as we got older, we're like, "Oh, things about the world." That's gonna tie back later as well. But so when I was reading all of this stuff, like, to me, it I didn't really know that, like, romances like that were not that was, like, a not okay romance when I was first reading it.
I mean, that's very fair. I don't think
So
you would be expected to.
no. So, like, I read that and I was like, "That's something that can happen?" So, like, this series so, like, this is where it was, like, a bad influence. Like, this normalized age gaps for me because I didn't realize that that is bad because I was impressionable kid.
Right.
Because I was definitely reading this, like, in high school, and to me, I was like, it hadn't yet clicked in my brain that that was a bad thing because of how I grew up sheltered. It wasn't, like, sheltered, like, I just, like, went to, like, a religious school growing up, and they don't talk about that shit at all, and I've been exposed at that point to, like, public schooling and, like, more normalized stuff, but not fully and completely. So, reading that and then seeing it also, like, I didn't realize it was not normal. So, for me, it normalized it, and, like, was like, "Wow," and so I ended up reading a lot of stuff in, like, that kind of genre because I didn't realize that's not normal, that's not good as a kid. And so it's been a lot of, like, undoing that in my brain since then. I'm like I read this stuff and I'm like, "Oh, okay, I enjoyed that," and then I'm like, "I'm not supposed to because that's not normal," and because I read it from, like, the female perspective, not, like, the adult perspective.
Mhm.
But then, like, my brain in back my mind is like, the adult perspective is like, "This is wrong. Hell no," but, like, there's so much undoing to get to that point because I read this series at such a young age where I didn't realize that this was not normal.
Right.
Like, I was very surprised at the ending. Like, I was like, "Whoa, this took a turn, like, this is not where I wanted this to go, this is I wanted her to end up with her childhood friend, you know?" Like, I'm like, "They're cute, they fight, they're besties, I'm for this," and then they didn't go that route, I'm like, "Well," and I was so confused, but then I was like, "This is" you see a lot and it's normal, this is why people are like, "Be careful of age gaps and things like that." This way it's really you do start to kinda think that they're normal, and for me, it was kinda like a bad influence, 'cause that
Oh.
person's perspective, because I wasn't fully aware that that wasn't normal, and so it took me a and because there was a lot of stuff like that out there, it took me a while to be like, "Oh, this thing that I read that I was like, thought was normal is not actually normal."
I also feel like this is a series that is on the more extreme end of
It is.
age gap
It is.
wise. Because
Yes.
generally, when we have age gap stuff, it's like, okay, it's a 16-year-old and a 21-year-old. Or not the
Yeah.
case for this.
This is like a 30-year-old age gap,
Yeah.
like, she yeah, it's like and not only that, but he, like, raised her and that's not normal.
Yeah.
This is, like, a very extreme. So, like, it's like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, "Guys, like like, pick your battles." There's this small, like, kind of normal age gap that you can kinda see that, yeah, might not be great.
Mhm.
But when you got stuff like this, you're like, you gotta pick your battles smartly. Like, it's the bunny drop ones you have to be afraid of.
Right.
That that's where like, that I'm actually kinda scared to admit the fact that that's what this impacted me as, but yeah, it took a lot to undo that. I think a lot of it was when the anime came out and everyone was like, "Oh my god, this is bad." I'm like, "Oh, this is bad. Oh, yeah, I guess you're right, that is bad. Okay, cool, I thought it was weird." Okay, so yeah, this is why this is influential.
Yeah. I mean,
But,
anime does blur the lines of like
yeah.
not just what's bad and what's not, because it's different cultures for sure, but even
Yes.
still in Japan, that is bad. That
Yeah.
that was something they released, and like they know it's bad over there. It's when it's age gaps. Normally, it's generally more of a cultural thing that we don't understand here, because from what I understand, they voted to have like raise uh the minimum age in Japan, and everyone just said we don't care about it. Let leave it where it's at. So it's like it's very much a Western thing when it comes to the age gap thing, because Japan does not see it as an issue. But with this, even they agree it's an issue.
Yeah, it's taken a lot of time to be like, "Okay." But that's why you'll be like, "Oh, I like this series," and people be like, "It has an age gap in it," and you're like, "I understand! I get it, but I can't control the fact that I was led to believe this was normal, and I can't change what I enjoyed as a child." So,
I mean,
but,
that
um
there's it's such a weird thing for me, for people to like have a problem with age gaps, because like, yeah, I'm not saying age gaps are right. Like, let me preface that real quick
yeah,
before
we're
I
not saying that at
like
all. Like, we 100% are on the side of, like, "Yeah, no, this no."
yeah, but as someone that grew up in a time where Ouran High School Host Club was the epitome of like the female gaze, and Honey Senpai was very popular with the ladies, even if he is a high schooler, he looks like an 8-year-old. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I don't have that kind of sensitivity to it. But there are people that are like, oh my god, age gaps are bad. But like 10 years ago, they were probably watching Ouran High School Host Club and writing fanfic about Honey and Mori. So,
Yeah, I don't know, read them when I think it's like I said, this is where I think there's, like, a there's harmful for it and there's harmless because there are girls who fantasize. Because I think a lot of what it was is I just, like, enjoyed reading fiction about, like, oh, like, being with an older person when you're younger. It's just, like, that was just, like, that's a fantasy girls have, and I think
mhm,
fiction's a safe way to explore that fantasy. Um, and I'm glad that fiction existed because that it let me explore that without actually exploring that.
yeah,
So, that's where I don't think you have to fully condemn it. I think there's a line, and I think that Bunny Drop really drew that line. And there's a
Buddy
few other
Drop
series.
crossed that line. It didn't draw
Yeah,
that line. It crossed
well,
that line.
like, okay, I really crossed that line. There's a lot of series though that really, like are like,
Hmm.
"Ah, okay, yeah." But I think a lot of the ones that people, like, really freak out on are,
Hmm.
like, this is for people to read and explore these kind of fantasies and these situations in a safe way.
Right.
Because you don't want people who are, like, want to experience this fantasy for real to go out and do that when they can explore it in a safe way in fiction and be like, "Ah, what a great way to explore my fantasy," and then move
Right.
on. So that's where it's like, I don't think age gap fiction is all bad
Hmm.
because I think it's a safe way for people to explore fantasies, especially because the ones that people talk about and, like, condemn, like, there's the ones that condemn that are, like, made for adults, and you're like, "Okay, yeah, no, bad."
Yeah.
But when they're aimed at younger people, like, this is for young girls to read, it is a safe way for them to digest this information. Because if you notice, on all of these, the guys aren't, like, these, like, big toxic dudes, like, trying to control their every move in life that we run into in, like, a
Mhm.
daily like, in real life. These are people who are actually they care about them, they respect them, they're in these, like so it allows them to safely live this fantasy, but also kinda set a standard of what how you should still be treated as a human.
Right.
So I think that that's the really important part to that. But also it's important to have things that people do relate to as well. So that's where it's like there is a very definite line when it comes to age gaps. We've talked about age gaps a lot, I'm finding, but
It's not gonna end here, that's for
no, it's not.
sure.
It's not.
So,
But this is kind of like my stance on it. But
mhm.
at the same, this is kind of why though, is because I also read a lot of this stuff when I was younger, and I thought that this was normal.
Yeah.
And I didn't. But at the same time, I also think it's really important that people explore things safely.
Right.
So it's like first off, like if someone stumbles upon like a bestiality series, I'd rather them read it than actually do it. Like, you know.
I okay, side tangents. So, 'cause we've established I listen to other podcasts, and there was one podcast that I listened to that you were also kind of a fan of. I will
Oh,
not name
okay.
them, but you know
I
which
know
one I'm talking
that.
about.
I know. It's like the
So
only podcast I listen to, so
yeah,
like
so I I watch hentai for the plot. 100%, I watch hentai for the plot. I was browsing through and I found one that I couldn't believe it was a thing, and I had to watch it because I was just like, what what the actual fuck is this? And then I tune into this podcast and learn that I'm not the only person that saw this hentai and decided to watch it and decide what the fuck is this. And it is a Little Red Riding Hood hentai where she does the dirty with the big bad wolf. And yes, he
yeah,
is very much a wolf.
I mean, I'm glad you explored that in fiction and not in real life.
I wish I hadn't explored it in either way, but I'm just glad I wasn't the only one that was like, this is weird. I'm gonna click on it. It made me so happy I was not the only one that's just like, yeah, I'm gonna suffer through this because why the fuck not?
You're like, "Curiosity has killed my cat," and I don't know if I have
That
regrets
is
at this
that is
point.
a really bad analogy to use when you're referring to the hentai.
I no, I think it's the perfect analogy.
No. I was looking for a nice little plot, a nice little spicy story. I did not want to see that. Just, I'm gonna have a hard time rewatching Beastars from now on. Let's just say that.
But there's no human characters in it.
Doesn't matter. There's a wolf, and he is the main character.
You know, I think of all the fan fiction out there, Beastars is, like, the one series where I'm like, "I'm just not going to try."
Yeah, don't. Fanfiction wise, no. Series is amazing. Dub is
Yeah, good
absolutely
series,
amazing.
love it. Mhm.
Um, I am not touching the Google search results for any fan art. I I'm gonna be
Yeah.
real right now. I lightly consider myself a furry. I hang out with furries. I have a fursona. I have art. This is gonna lose me a lot of credibility. I'm sorry. I draw the line at that though. I do
You lost
because
credibility points with me too, but I already knew this
no.
about you.
The minute like Haru is feeling up Legosi's fur, I wanted to stop the series. I almost could not continue because I was like, nah. I'm good. I'm good. I mean, granted, the reason I have a first soda, you know, it's mostly the meme. I did it just to fuck with somebody. I can
Oh,
have it. So
y that's the motivation for a lot of your things. It's, like, either out of spite or the fuck with people.
yeah, never tell me you have a problem with furries because I'm gonna show up at your hotel door at a con in a furry costume and torment you for 5 years straight at every con I go
Yeah,
to.
no, if I told Cyan be no, no, I taught perfect example. She's more than well aware that I despise Reduve Healer, and yet
Mhm.
she still haunts me with
I'm waiting for season 2.
I'm gonna suffer.
I mean, I can't make you watch season 2 this time, so.
I will not watch season 2.
Actually, I didn't make you watch season 1. I just made it as a joke. It's not my fault the rest of your chat went along with my meme.
Was it you? I thought it was someone else who suggested it.
No, I made a joke on it. Somebody in chat suggested. I didn't suggest it in chat, but I made a joke about it, and then somebody else ran with it.
Yeah. It was my most successful watch party
At
in my
least
community
you,
to date.
at least you watched the censored version.
Yes, yes, I did. I enjoyed the walls panning very much.
That was the only time I've watched the censored version.
You're just like, wow.
I
This
still have a Norn cosplay from that series that I haven't worn yet. Maybe I'll bring it
Oh.
to Anime Expo.
Well, you're the only one cosplaying.
If
Because my
I
cosplay is a little too bulky to bring, and I don't oh, I mean, I guess I could torture you just as much with the cosplay that I have.
would it? uh, It's the Demon Slayer run,
Yeah, it's
right?
Tanjiro,
Okay.
but you don't
Uh,
like Demon Slayer.
I can tolerate Demon Slayer. My brain was going to another series that I'm still recovering from, so I was like, "You didn't buy a cosplay. You would have mentioned if you bought a new cosplay." So
No,
good, good,
it's
okay.
I don't have a new one. I totally would. I actually, yeah, 100% would have. You'd be the first person I told, be like, "I got a cosplay."
Oh, yeah, yeah. So I had to think about it. I was like, "No, you would have told me." My fear sank in, and my heels were about to dig in. I'm bringing this cosplay. If you fucking bring that shit, I'm bringing this cosplay, and I will find somebody to put on a leash.
I now I have no idea what cosplay you're talking about.
Norn, or the one that you would have.
Yeah.
The series I dropped within the first episode that I am
Oh.
still livid about.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that I will not bring up
Okay.
on stream because I am not subjecting myself to that in my chat right now.
Yeah. I mean, I still love it, but,
Yeah,
no, I wouldn't cosplay it's gonna be a big cosplay.
yeah.
You're gonna see it everywhere. You're gonna get so
Mm-hmm.
sick of it so fast. Like, you're already gonna get tortured because you're gonna see it everywhere in Anime Expo, I already know.
We'll see.
We will.
Well,
You
there's a
we
lot of
will.
series that get really popular in the first few episodes, and then like they die off pretty quickly.
I have already seen so many,
Yeah, but
so
it's still new.
yeah, but
So it's
it
still
it
new.
keeps up whatever it's doing, and people like what it's doing, so
I've seen a lot of people already dropping it after episode 2, so I'm living high on my horse right now. I'm seeing a lot of people starting to be like, oh, yeah, episode 1 wasn't what it didn't keep up. So like, all right, I'm good. I'm
we
happy.
definitely we 100 I don't know
We
how we managed to see 2 completely different sides of the community. 2 completely different sides, because 'cause you're like, "I always see this," and I'm like, "I have not seen a person do this." And then I say something and you're like, "I haven't seen that at all."
the difference between the anime and the manga community, I believe, because you
Well,
definitely.
I don't have just like, manga community,
Yeah, but
because
I
my
don't hang
friends
out
have
with any manga people at all. You're the only manga person I hang out with and
I
follow.
mean, I don't hang out with
Well, I
any
mean,
manga people.
yeah, but algorithms pick up on the stuff like you talk about and
Yeah,
stuff like that. So
that's true.
regardless if you talk about it on the site, smartphones be scary like that.
They do they
So
are, they're very scary.
yeah, so my suggested stuff is very much very
Oh my
anime
god.
centric.
Can I go on a tangent real quick?
Uh huh.
Um, so I was online this morning, and, the reason it caught my attention is because they kept saying Brocon,
Oh
which
no.
Brocon is the abbreviate like, is how I refer to Brothers Conflict, I
Uh
call it
huh.
Brocon. So I was like, "Oh, they're talking about, Brothers Conflict," and I was so confused, and they're going off about, like, how, you can't be a Brocon hater. I mean, Brocon haters coming out here, but they really don't like Brocon 'cause they like this, and they were talking and I was so confused because 'cause I'm like, "What about Brothers Conflict?" I mean, a lot of people hate it for the right reasons, so I'm like, "That is are people praising?" Like, I was confused in what was going on.
Mhm.
They were not using Brocon in that way.
What were they
They
referring
were
to?
talking like I don't really fully know, but they were talking about a, Trigun slash a yeah, I don't remember what it was, but I think it was some like, does the main character have, like, a brotherly relationship with anyone?
He has a brother.
I think that's what it was. They were shipping him with his brother, and that's
Yeah,
what they were talking about,
he does literally have a
and
brother, but they don't refer to it as a brocon.
yeah, I was just, like, so confused, but I was just like I forgot the whole point of this tangent now,
Uh-huh.
but what you said reminded me of this, and I wanted to tell you about it, but I was just, like, so confused, and I thought of you, and I was like,
I mean, granted, there are a
I'm
lot of people don't like that ship because everyone is Vashwood, which is Wolfwood and Vash, but
yeah, no, this was they were there it's just this person went off this whole rampant, like, rage about, like, you know, like, if you can't like, all these Brocon haters coming out of the woodwork and hating on Brocon, but then as if they didn't ship Brocon before, like, years ago, and they were referring to him and his brother, and I was like and then, like, they were a full-on, like, fan of that ship, and I was so confused. I was just like,
confused.
"What the what came up on my algorithm?" It's like and I think the reason it came up on my algorithm because of the brothers' conflict, and that's why Brocon kept coming up. It's like, "Brocon, Brocon, Brocon."
Right.
I'm like, "You guys, like, do you realize Brocon is also used as an abbreviation for popular otome game series?" You're
I'm just
confusing me.
like uh
And then the person,
where
like, woke up the next day and they're like, "I don't know what the fuck I was on about last night with Brocon." And I'm like, "I don't think we did either."
oh my god.
'Cause I was on the profile trying to figure out and piece together what the hell they were talking about.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know why I went on that tangent, but then what you said reminded me of that.
You're fine, but I'm just like where the fuck did the Brocon ship name come from? Like I we've entered a new age. This is continuing the tangent. I'm sorry,
Yes.
but I remember back in the day when ship names weren't mashing together names. It was generally picking up like a characteristic between the two of them. Like a lot of the Prince of Tennis ships were the different types of pairs that they would be if they were, you know, of
Oh, yeah, I remember
pairs.
that.
And it was stuff like that. And I remember a lot of ship names being kind of similar. Like that. Even the Ruby ship names are kind of like that, where it's not mixing the names together. Like I believe Blackbird is the ship between Raven and Crow, which is kind of weird because they're sister and brother, but they're both birds. One's a raven and one's a crow, so they're called Blackbird. Bumblebee is Yang and Blake because their colors are black and yellow. And it was I remember ship names being more like that when I was younger and into the whole thing. And now people are doing the like mashing the names together. So Vashwood is a very new thing for me, and I'm still kind of but why would you go from mashing the names together to doing Brocon when it's
No, we're talking about, like, Brocon as a subject, because they refer to the
oh
ship by name, but I didn't remember the names, that's why I
okay.
was like, "What?" Um,
I mean,
but, the 'cause going on about that, I've actually seen people, though, use that old method of, like, giving a
mm-hmm.
name or characteristics. I
Yeah,
see it a lot in the I'm not in this fandom, but I see it a lot in the skate fandom.
yeah, I've seen it there.
They use
It's still
a
very
lot of, like, names.
popular in
Yeah.
sports fandoms. I've noticed because they do
Yeah.
it a lot in Kuroko's no Basket as well.
Yes.
So
Um, and I mean, I think we've talked about the Reborn ship names too.
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, because
So
they're numbers, and I like that.
yeah.
I love that. I love that so much.
So there's some that hold true to like the old ways, but like I don't know. I think it's very weird to mash the names together. And like
Yeah.
if you're gonna mash the names together, just put the name X the name at that point because you know that's how we search it up any fucking way.
Yeah. I I think, like, Fruits Basket I'm gonna bring up Fruits Basket briefly,
Mm-hmm.
is also one where you see, like, name mashing a lot, and, like, I wish we didn't because you could come up with such cute ship
You
names. I
really
think my
could.
friends, we were talking about Rin and Haru's, like, a ship name for them,
Mm-hmm.
and we came up with Cowbell.
Yeah, I thought that was the ship name for them.
I thought
Was
yeah,
Cowbell.
well, I thought it was too, and then I've never seen people use it, and I'm like, "But it's such a cute name, like, why aren't we using Cowbell? Why are we using Rin Haru or Haru because there's too many characters with that ship name. Like,
Right.
use something that, like, is more unique. Cowbell is perfect.
Honestly. I it especially in a series like that that uses a lot of really common names. So,
Yes.
um yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I don't like it. I want to go back to the old days where people were actually creative. Um Please use more than one brain cell to come up with a ship name. Please. Thank
Yeah.
you. Have a nice
I think
day.
there's like I said, I think there's still creative fandoms out there. I just think that there's a lot of deep diving you have to do into fandoms to find them.
Fair.
So, and I know your opinion on fandoms. So,
Yeah, I don't have the best track record with them, but it's fine. It all started with the Pokemon fandom and just went down here from there.
all right. But to end our tangent,
Yeah.
what is your third uh
Uh,
series?
so my third is actually something I've already mentioned before. Um, I wasn't gonna bring it up again. This is one that got a replacement for Gurren Lagann. Um,
Okay.
but it works. This is kind of my first deep dive into a shojo series because I started going into like magical girl series. I went back and I watched Sailor Moon again, Cardcaptor Sakura, Shugachara, but I didn't really like dive past the magical girl portion of shojo until I hit Nana.
Okay.
And to say that Nana has impact and influenced a lot of my life and a lot of my decisions in anime and a lot of my opinions on anime would be a big understatement. Says a lot that my first tattoo was from Nana. I almost got a quote from Nana tattooed on me as well, but I could never decide on which one. And then I decided I don't like the idea of text tattoos.
Yeah, there's a lot of good quotes in Nana.
And because of I was deep diving into that, I also have a lot of their quotes very much memorized, which is really really corny. That I hate that I like. It's burned in my brain. Like this is a series that's been on hiatus since 2009. It has not been
Yeah.
around for a while. I'm still
It just
convinced.
got reprints though, so a lot
Yeah,
of new people are being introduced to the series and what they
yeah,
love.
and it's an amazing read, and I think it does a really well job of making characters that are very very human and very very flawed in a human way.
Yes.
Um, but it's something that deals very very heavily with relationships and not just romantic ones at that point because it is listed as a romance, but I feel like the romance is kind of just subplot for the most part because stated before, I mentioned this in our first episode. It's about two girls named Nana, 20 years old, move to Tokyo, end up living together, very, very different people. Um, but it explores a lot of different types of ways to have relationships with people and ways to love people. One of the things that stuck out the most for me, and this is where it starts getting really personal because I found this around the time I had entered my first relationship,
Okay.
which is really awkward because it actually reminds me more of my first crush than my first relationship, and might have been slightly toxic of me to be thinking about my first crush when I was dating my ex.
No,
Um,
I think that's normal to think about.
yeah, but so at the very beginning, you get introduced to Nana Komatsu, who is nicknamed Hachi. Makes it easier. We have Nana and we have Hachi. Hachi, her backstory of how she very easily falls in love over and over again. She wears her heart on her sleeve. She's very quick and she's very selfish in that way, and she admits that she is, and she's very um, in need of somebody to just kind of like keep her on track. Like she flies off on the whims, and she has that best friend that kind of keeps her in place and kind of like reprimands her when she's being too childish. Nana Osaki, who is the more mature of the two, she you get her backstory second, and her whole thing is she's always been a loner and she doesn't really have a friend group. She gets kind of uh, a slight friend group, which is nothing but her bandmates, which are all guys. So she doesn't really have female friends and a female influence in her life. Um, but when she first sees her love interest, which is Ren, on stage, she explains that what she felt when she first saw him wouldn't be explained as being in love with him. It wasn't love at first sight. It wasn't simply falling in love. It was a mixture of, I believe she says, jealousy and envy mixed with like an unnerving presence to want to be near him. Um, which is a very odd way to think of like falling in love with somebody. Because generally when you think of falling for somebody, like you think of that adoration, you think of like things that are a little more pure, you think of like maybe even like lust or something, and the things that she put jealousy and envy up there first, and it
Yeah.
really defines their entire relationship of how like he ends up moving to Tokyo to continue his career to go play for another band, and she stays behind because she doesn't want to just be his stay-at-home wife. She doesn't want to just, you know, be dependent on him. She wants to form her own career. So she stays behind and then eventually moves there on her own to start her own band, to start her own career. And that's plays off of the fact that she's like she was envy of what he had and the power he had and his ability to be free on the stage at the time, and she wanted that. But she wasn't going to sacrifice that for herself to let him continue to do that even further. So even when they get back together and they meet up again, like she continues to like stay independent on her own, and they openly admit multiple times that their relationship is, well, she admits that's very very toxic of her. She even put a freaking chain and padlock around his neck, and keeps the key to show like she's very possessive on keeping him near her, and she gets very possessive over Hachi as well, almost to a toxic nature at some points where people are just like, you're kind of crossing the line. You're kind of treating her like she's your property, not your friend. And she's like, well, she's mine, so you know, what of it? Um, and it's very interesting to see these both very selfish and very different ways girls become friends despite how different they are. Because even Hachi, at one point, Nana has a friend that comes in. She's not a friend, but a fan of the band comes to visit them, and she ends up spending a lot of time with this friend, taking them out to Disney World, or the Japan equivalent of Disney World, and taking her around the city. And Hachi has to work, and she comes home and nobody's home, and she's alone. And she's like, I kind of wanted to go to Disney World too. I've been left out. She feels like she's being replaced, and she ends up blowing up at Nana at one point, being like, did you even consider that I would want to do these things too? And that's the first time you kind of really see them clash, where Nana feels bad because she understands that she fucked up. And then Hachi also realized that she shouldn't have blown up the way she did. And they work through it, but it becomes more and more of a kind of a battle between them trying to find that balance. And then Nana Hachi finds her next relationship, and it does well as well as not just focusing on their feelings, because there's a point, spoilers, Hachi kind of sort of enters a relationship with the guitar player for Nana's band, not Nobuo. And yeah, I'm not gonna go into the specifics of what
I don't
goes on.
remember the specifics, but I remember
Yeah.
Evil Laugh.
Um,
Um,
and of course, so Hachi ends up breaking his heart. And instead of focusing on her, who she's also kind of struggling with her decision that she made, but and you kind of understand the decision she makes, and you kind of also don't agree with the decision she makes. But they spend some time focusing on Nobuo. Nana's comforting him, like, you just got your heart broken. We're here for you. Like, Shin and Yasu are also there for him, and they kind of help him. And like, he has a moment where he's just asking them all for advice, and they focus on that. So it's never just like, all right, we're focusing on the females' relationships and their feelings. Like, no, they explore how the guys feel about the whole thing as well. Because even Shin, poor little baby Shin, has his own heartbreak that is happening throughout this series, and they focus on that a lot as well.
We love baby
It's
Shin.
I love him so much. That he's a problem child, but I love him so much.
He is the beloved problem child.
Yeah.
He is the beloved. He is. I would say like he is like OG beloved problem child.
Mm-hmm. But this was a series that like really hit home for me because I saw myself in both Nana's shoes at one point. Like I can relate to both of them to a certain degree, even if when I was younger I did not want to relate to Hachi. I saw her as annoying. But now that I'm older, I'm like, yeah, I was kind of like her. I can't be mad. I was kind of like that. But my relation has always been more to Nana Osaki, and that's mostly because I came from a mostly male group of friends, and it's very different having female friends. You
Yeah.
hear it a lot with a lot of girls being like, "Oh, I don't get along with other girls. I just get along with guys better." And I don't think that's the case. It's very different having female friends. And if you're not familiar with how uh, that dynamic works, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And
It is very different.
yeah, and Nana Osaki struggles with that a little bit because she's used to having the guy friends that don't really care if she runs off and goes spends time with Masato out at Disneyland and stuff, and goes and does her own like girly things. But having a female friend and not including her in on things like that, it hurts a lot more. Guys don't care about it. Well, guys sometimes care. No, not all guys. Some guys do care about that. But most guys don't really care about little superficial things like that. But girls do. And girls will lash out about it eventually, or they'll dwell on it. And
Yeah, and it builds up. Like they'll be like, "Oh no, it's nothing. Like I'm just overreacting," and it
mm-hmm.
builds up over time. Because then it all comes out at once, and you're like, you didn't realize how much all these things mattered until you were so mad.
Yeah. And it deals with that in such a way, and I saw it and I related to it a lot growing into my 20s because as I started having more female friends and realized like, okay, I don't just get along better with guys. I just, there's only certain girls I can deal with because um there's the mind game players, the very like drama heavy ones that they're just bad to be around anyway. But
Oh, and I'm all of those.
you know which ones I'm talking about. You know what I'm
I know.
specifically.
I'm joking.
Yeah, I'm about to say you
I'm joking. I'm like I am all my. I am all no.
yeah. Because I'll
I can't
start
play my
listing
game for my
names
life.
right now. But nah, I about 10 or so years ago, I probably maybe had like one female friend at a time. Um, and in the past like 5 or so years, I've generally been able to have like multiple female friends, and I've made friends with more and more girlfriends, and I generally take a lot of my reference from the series of like, okay, I can't treat them the same. Like I love y'all all the same as my male friends, but I gotta remember like I can't just be like, yeah, just not gonna respond to your message for 6 months kind of thing.
Or like
I
a week.
I
Sorry.
I, I get that. I get no, I get that. That's why I spam your DMs. I'm like, you'll get to it eventually. I know you're busy
Yeah.
with work and shit.
Yeah, I'm just there,
Um,
I'm like, sometimes I'm not even busy, but I'll get to it. I
but like
promise.
I'm more talking for like, and this is gonna be a very recent example. I had a friend that I was hanging out with pre-COVID, um, and me and her kind of got along, and she'd always like send me messages like, "Oh, we should go to this hiking trail," and I would always message her back, "Oh yeah, just let me know when, and I'll be glad to go." And she did that over and over again. She'd send me different places she wanted to go that were local. I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'm definitely down. Just let me know when." And she would never set up a time to go when, and it got to a point where I just stopped responding. It wasn't so much that she wasn't messaging me; it was just like she's not following through with it. She's saying she wants to make all these plans and she's not following through with it. And then I started seeing that she was actually hanging out with other people and going to do these things after she had messaged me saying she was going to do those things. Granted, that situation is apparently a lot deeper than I thought it was. Because I got a lot of tea on that. But that's the kind of situation I'm talking about is like, okay, you say you want to hang out and then you don't actually hang
Yeah,
out kind of thing.
exactly.
When it comes to like, okay, I didn't get a text back, I don't care. I'm not gonna hold that over anybody's head. Um, I'm very bad at texting back. You should see my Discord messages. Uh, Especially people that message me while I'm sleeping and don't really message me something for me to respond to. I get a lot of messages that are just like, "Hey, how you been?" or "Hey, how you doing?"
Mm,
I'm not gonna respond to that.
yeah, if you just message me a "Hey," I'm like,
Yeah,
I don't know how to follow up with this." It's like,
yeah,
you gotta start with something, you gotta give me something to conversate about.
yeah. Like even if you just send me a funny meme, I might send back an LOL. Most of the time, I'm just gonna look at it, laugh, and then not just you know
Yeah.
give me something to respond to, and I'll respond to it. But yeah, it's a juggle uh to try and hold relationships, especially holding relationships with multiple people, and not just again not just romantic ones, but friendships. Um, and I've learned that even more becoming a streamer and being like, I'm gonna collab with all these different people and make all these friends, and then I start feeling bad because I'm not able to play with people as much anymore, and I don't get to hang out with people as much anymore because I'm hanging out with so many other people. Uh, it, it's very difficult, and I like the way that this manga and anime kind of adapt that into very real situations.
Very
Not
real, because
yeah.
the way you told, like, the what was going on in the story,
Mm-hmm.
um, like, I was it almost sounded like you were just talking about 2 friends you had
Yep.
that going through a very normal argument that they are able to resolve as adults, because we never we're human. No one ever resolves anything perfectly.
No.
There's people are gonna fight, we have emotions, we get jealous, we all make mistakes, or not even mistakes, but we all handle things differently, and not everyone and not always in the way that we want to as well.
Right.
And so it's a very human series, and anyone who watches it and it's like, "Oh, I don't like this person because they did this." It's like, "Well, then but did you understand how they were being human about it?" Like, you don't have to agree with their decision, but
Right.
you can at least understand it.
Right. And I think that's the beauty of this series because like if Nana Komatsu had been the only main character of the series, I don't think I could have would have gotten as hooked as I did because again, when I was younger, I was like, Hachi's not relatable. But now that I'm older, like Hachi was very relatable for younger me. Younger me just did not want to admit how relatable that was.
Yes.
Hachi was my Watamote. But Nana Osaki being like the cool character, I was like, oh yeah, I relate to her. I want to be like the cool rocker chick. And now I'm older, and like, bro, Nana Osaki and her relationship with Rin is so fucking toxic, and it's so problematic. I'm not to say that they shouldn't be together, but to acknowledge that there are problems within a relationship is a very big thing. Like no relationship is going to be 100% like perfect. And I think that's something a lot of younger people don't realize as well. It's like our relationship is never going to be perfect. There's always going to be toxic or bad things that happen. You just have to like either look past it or work through it or try and fix it. But yeah, it doesn't shy away from that in any way. You just become more aware of it as you get older because you choose to kind of see the things you want to see when you're younger, and then as you get older, you see things that are like, oh, that was a lot more than I expected. Like with the Digimon thing, I didn't think Digimon was going to be that deep. It
I
was
don't
just
think anyone expected Digimon to be that deep.
yeah. That's anime for you though. Yeah, your next pick.
Um, well, this one's a pretty popular one. So I kind of have 2 answers for this.
Okay.
Um, but the one I picked, Durarara.
Okay.
So there's 2 major reasons why this had a influence on me, but, for those who don't know what Durarara is, it is a classic, and you need to go back and, well, I say classic lightly, but, like, you need to go back and watch it if you haven't.
It also
It's
has one of
really
the
interesting.
best anime openings of all time.
I think all of its openings are bangers.
It is, but that first one is absolutely
Really?
memorable.
Oh, I mean, it's memorable, yeah, but I prefer the second one. I think the second one is probably one of the best anime openings of all time.
I could see it.
Um, but it has really good music, the atmosphere and direction and everything, but that's not at all what I'm talking about. Um,
Mhm.
but it's a fantastic anime. It's essentially about all these people who kind of live in Ikebukuro and have their own, like, motivations, their own lives going on, and it's kind of how all their lives kind of intersect and connect, throughout this, like, with this urban legend that kinda the supernatural urban legend that's going on. Um, and, that's, like, a really, really vague way of saying it, but it's a series you watch and every, like, episode when you first watch it, like, every episode is like, "How are these related?" They're all, like, standalone episodes, but they all, like, tie together later. And
Yeah,
it's a unique form of storytelling, that Dura, I think, executed pretty well.
yeah. And if anyone's kind of confused with what kind of storytelling that is, you can compare it to Pulp Fiction, which is an American movie, which kind of does the same thing, but not to such a large degree.
Yeah, and, as the series progresses, like, now you know how things connect, they kinda build on that, and they add on it, and they do a really good job throughout all the way to the end, while showing how characters kinda change throughout. I think it's just a really good series. I think the author is this is I mean, it's the same creator as Baccano, so, like, I think the author is, like, a writing genius.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not biased by any means. But anyways, that's not what I wanna talk about. So the more lighthearted so I have 2 ways this has influenced me. One is really lighthearted, and the other one, um, isn't. Well, isn't as lighthearted. So the first one is when I read the series, it made me wanna join a gang. I really wanted to join a gang after I watched Durarara.
God damn it!
I really did. I was like, "I need to be part of a gang." I was just like, "Hell yeah." That died pretty quickly.
I hope
'Cause
so. I
yeah, 'cause, innocent high school Shio was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna join a gang, but
And then
I don't wanna get
Shio
in trouble."
found Fruits Basket and like, I want to be like Kyoko.
Kyoki my fruits basket was way before this. Um, but, so there's that, but what it really, made like, what really actually like, how it actually influenced me for real, um, is that it kinda showed that if you sit around and do nothing, nothing's gonna change. Like, you're always gonna be kinda stuck in that same rut you're always stuck in.
Mhm.
You're not going to have exciting things happen to you. You're not gonna have you're gonna be kinda bored, and you're gonna feel, like, unsettled with your life because you're not doing anything. You're just kinda sitting there, not doing much. But if you go out and you make yourself involved in the world around you, things will change, and you will start seeing things you're gonna see things in life that you want and things that you don't want, but you're not going to no longer be in that same cycle of everything is boring, nothing's changing, everything is boring, nothing's changing. I want my work life to be exciting. You're not gonna see that if you don't get involved and you don't try to integrate yourself into the world in the way you want to. So this series actually made me, because I was at this point when this series came out, I was watching it, still pretty sheltered. I was back in public, I knew stuff. I was not as sheltered anymore, but I was still. Um, but I I wanted to be involved and do stuff and interact with people because I was kind of a lonely kid at that time. And it kind of made me more open to joining things that were outside of my comfort.
Mhm.
So it's where I ended up joining like school clubs, and when I went to college, I think it's part of the reason why I was able to join like a sorority and clubs and office and things like that because I wanted to see those changes and positive influence, and I wanted to integrate and have interesting, fun things happen. And I don't think without Durarara kind of making me realize this, I don't think I would have done these things.
Right.
I think I would have been, like, just content sitting behind my monitor, um, trying to read as much manga as I can without interacting with people.
Shio channeling her inner Watamote.
Yes.
Never letting that
Um
die.
Damn it, I should have never brought it up. But, yeah, no, I really liked her a lot. And it's so weird because, like, the character that, like, really made me realize that is, like, Mikado, and a lot of people, like, don't care for Mikado or don't have him as, like, a character that's, like, they really like.
Mm-hmm.
But he's, like, the one that, like, really I found that I related to the most. It's like you want to be involved, but also there's a point where it's like you gotta step back too.
Fair. You got a
That I
lot more
didn't
out of that than I did because I watched Durara for very superficial reasons. I understand like everything you're saying, but I definitely watched it for one reason.
I'm predicting that reason in my brain right now. Um, I mean, I stayed and I enjoyed it for other reasons too, and I really liked,
Mhm.
a lot of what happened in Nura outside of that, but I think, like, that is where it influenced me a lot.
It's fair.
'Cause it kinda made me realize that, but I enjoyed it for other reasons too.
Yeah.
I it also made me join this online community, that I was a part of, like, religiously for, like, a few months, and then I never logged it again, and then I went back to it and it was gone.
Oh my gosh.
So,
Uh, it's a really good series, and I stand by.
mm,
Like, if you haven't watched it, definitely go fucking watch it.
yeah,
It's really well told. I know a lot of people have their gripes against the main character. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, I found my angry boy, and I was happy. So uh, I've
I
continued.
think it's just really interesting. I love how everything ties together and how they make everything work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Definitely go in with an open mind and go in with the mindset that you have to give it quite a few episodes for things to click.
I do say this is probably a series that benefits from being able to binge watch it too. I could not imagine watching
Yes.
this week to week.
I know I watched 2 episodes of this week to week, because I was watching it when it had already come out, but I was watching it on Toonami,
Okay. I didn't know it
and
aired on Toonami.
yeah, it was, like, when the Toonami came back, like, after it
Okay.
was gone. This is one of the things that was on its cycle. I watched episode 1 and I watched episode 2, and I was so I really liked it, but I was so confused, so
Yeah.
I went online, found the rest of it, and I watched it, and really liked it.
Yeah.
And then I went to find the light novels, which were not yet licensed yet,
Of
and
course.
I found fan translations of them and read them. I'm going back and buying them and reading the official translations,
Mm-hmm.
but, like, that was kind of also my introduction to light novel.
Okay.
I forgot about that. Thank you. Forgot. Yeah, that was my introduction to light novel.
Okay.
That's
Uh,
influential in its own right.
that's that is fair. I didn't learn about light novels until very very recently, actually, because I just assumed light novels were still manga. But boy, was I wrong.
Oh, yeah. Imagine buying a light novel and thinking getting a manga. What are all these words?
That
There's
that
no
that's kind of what happened when I bought the light novel for Spice and Wolf. Actually, I thought I was
you're like,
buying the
"What
manga.
are these words?"
Um, Still glad I bought it, but I was just like, oh, I thought I was buying the manga. Okay. Uh, well, before we continue, I think we should do a vibe check.
Heck yeah! Oh, I was gonna do it earlier and then I forgot.
We need it now because these last two are the ones that are gonna hurt me. I need to lift the vibes a little bit. So, what's your
Okay.
vibe check for the week?
I'm gonna go with what I'm reading right now, which is Carnival.
Okay.
Uh, let me Okay, so I read volume I think the first physical volume, and I'm trying to read through the rest of it. I've just been busy or, playing Honkai Star Rail. Um, essentially, Carnival's about this person called Nye who is really naive and is kinda lost. He essentially gets kidnapped, um, and didn't realize, like, in a really precarious situation that I didn't realize how precarious it was at the time when I first watched it. Um, and he gets saved by Gareku, who is there to kinda rob from, like, the rich. He's not there to save him, Gareku's just kinda like, "Oh, come along with me." But essentially, Nai is trying to find like, his companion. I wouldn't say it's like a brother figure to him, but they're not related. So he's trying to find the person he's always been with, which is, Karuko, and they think that he has ties to this government organization called Circus. So both of them kinda go on this quest to find Circus, and little do they know it is literally us. And so it's on this quest to kind of understand who this mysterious Karuko is, and what is Nai and why does Nai exist, because there's a lot more to Nai that's going on, and now Gareki is the main character, and he's kinda pulled into this as well, and he's learning a lot about the world that being shed on light in situations that he might have not fully known and kind of facing his own growth. And it's, like, a really beautiful, rich series. Um, the art's gorgeous. If you pick up a volume, there's not a summary on the back, so, because it's a very hard to explain series.
Mhm.
Like, I'm kinda struggling through that because there's not much I can read to tell you what to read. But it is a really cool there's action in it, there's a lot of character development, the art's really nice, there's good, um, progression, good plot points, and I don't know, it's just a really diverse set of characters. If you like I don't know, it's a josei, it's hard to explain, but it's really fun to check out. I'm reading it right now, and, uh, I don't know, I love it. I watched the anime a long time ago, and it was really good.
Yeah, I remember
But
watching
now
the anime, but I know the anime only scratches the surface of it.
yeah, it only scratches the surface, there's a lot of cool stuff, and, if dark yogi doesn't intrigue you, then I don't know what will.
If only they would have continued the anime, because I can. The anime was so pretty; it would be so hard for me to go to
Mhm.
read the manga.
I mean, the manga is also really pretty.
It's not
Um
colored, and it doesn't move.
oh, yeah, it's not colored. The art style, it evolves over time because it's a
Mhm.
long-running series.
Yeah.
Um, but, like, there's a bunch of color pages, and the covers are beautiful. Like, they're like, I kinda like the fact that there's no summary on the back because then I get, like, the full view of, like, the back cover art, and I'm like, "This is so pretty, I love it."
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
simple.
boy. That's fair. My vibe check might actually surprise you. I
Oh.
just binged watched the entire first season of Made in Abyss.
Oh.
Um, it's been something I've been wanting to watch because it comes very highly recommended. But saw small children and was like, ew. Um, but they're like teenagers. They just look kind of chibified. So, because the main girl's 12, um, so they're older. They don't act like small children. They just act like teenagers, kids,
Oh, so they're, like,
whatever.
Kadocho aged. Okay.
Yeah. Um. So it's not bad, but like the premise of Made in Abyss, I was never really given a good explanation of Made in Abyss because people like tiptoe around it. And they're just like, oh, it's a really good series. It's really dark. And then people say it doesn't really get dark until like the second season or the movie and stuff like that. And it doesn't get dark until much later. Um, I was lied to. I would like to say.
No, people were saying it was dark in season 1
Yeah, but
because
they
I
were
remember
saying they were saying it was weird, not dark, but like uncomfortable in season one. And I understand why they said it was uncomfortable. I never heard it was referred to as being dark in season one. Whereas those that did were when you ask about it, they're more like, okay, I was uncomfortable with this like thing or something. But so basically, Made of Abyss, there's this village that lives like on the edge of this giant fucking hole in the ground that we still don't really know what it is, as far as where I'm at least. Where it is the abyss, and there are cave divers that can go deeper into the abyss to explore it, and they're trying to figure out all the mysteries of it. But there's a curse within the abyss where when you come back up from it, you have various degrees of symptoms. Like you can have anything from a small headache. You go deeper, you will start having nausea and vomiting. You go even deeper and try and come up, you will start bleeding from your eyeballs. There is a point in the abyss where you can no longer climb back up because you will just die because the curse is too heavy.
Oh.
So you're mostly following the main girl who is trying to find her mother, who's down at the bottom of the abyss where she can no longer come back up. This is explained in the first 3 episodes, so it's slight spoilers. But yeah, the rest of it is just her journey down into the abyss, even though she's not supposed to be down there. I watched the first 3 episodes. I wasn't fully sold on it. I'm watching it in the dub, and I was like, just kind of passively watching it, and then it got to a point where I couldn't take my eyes away, and I'm like fully focused on it. And then episode 10 happened. And for those who have watched it, you know what happens in episode 10. I was squirming in my seat with like everything that was happening in that episode. It was definitely uncomfortable, not in the uncomfortable way people were explaining it, because their discomfort was with something else, but shit got really fucking real in episode 10, and oh my god, I watched episode 13 just before I cooked dinner and you woke up, so I'm still really on it a little bit, and that was a really hard episode to stomach through.
Oh, wow.
I don't really do well with like body horror type stuff either. But yeah, if season 2 gets worse, I can only imagine. Um, again, I expect a dark series. I've watched a lot of really dark series before. I did not expect this. I don't know if it's made worse with the fact that they're all kind of chibi-fied looking, and they're kind of cutesy looking, but god damn.
So you're telling me I need to watch Made in Abyss.
And I apologize for episode 10, because if it made me queasy, it's probably gonna make you queasy too.
I don't know. I get queasy off of weird shit. So, but I'm always willing to give everything a try, because if I was able to read the fan fiction I read in high school, then I can watch most of anything. Most, not everything. We have limits. You know this.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just. Oh, it. Oh my god. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm really curious now, because this is unsettling you, but Redo of Healer does not.
No.
And that's what makes me queasy. So I'm wondering what this is that's making you queasy.
Gotta watch
So
to find out, I guess.
yeah, I have to watch it to find out, because I'm asking you, but I also don't want you to tell me.
Yeah, I'm not gonna tell you either, because I don't want to spoil it for the audience either, because god, because before that my vibe check was gonna be something completely different, and then I just binge watched the rest of that this morning. So yeah, here's that. So yeah, back to
Your pick.
yeah. This is gonna hurt me. Ah! So my next pick is Blue Spring Ride.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
So this one, this is another one that I had. This was replaced for a Yu Yu Hakusho, and
I'm sorry. I will eventually read it. I promise.
It's okay. I would rather not spoil it and have you read it, because I'm actually a little excited, especially for Gurren Lagann, for you to watch it and then me to get your a reaction, especially for Gurren Lagann, because you've been spoiled on something, and I want to see your reaction to the rest of it.
Okay.
But Yu Yu Hakusho is a very long read, so I understand that one as well.
Well, I mean, I have all of it,
Yeah.
so I could read it easily.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of
That's
I plan on reading through all of that.
yeah.
But it's just a matter of getting through the stuff I'm already reading and watching.
Right. Um. So Blue Spring Ride, um, is a very kind of unique romance in a way. It's unique from things that I've read or watched, because I have actually read the entire manga for this, and that's very rare for me to like. Oh, I watched the
Wow.
entire anime and I read the manga. Uh,
That now I am surprised. Because this title came out of the woodwork for you
mm-hmm.
completely. I'm like, what? Io Sakazaki? Really? You?
Have
No
you
offense.
read Blue Spring Ride?
I've read all this author's works.
Okay, okay.
That's
So
why I'm surprised.
yeah, so Blue Spring Ride follows Futaba and Ko, who are initially they're introduced when they're much younger. They're like I think it's middle school, and it's
Yeah.
obviously like they have a crush on each other and they kind of like have little interactions. But then Ko ends up having to move away, um, and he ends up moving back much later. But after he's moved back, they have both grown and they have both changed in very, very different ways. Futaba, who is, you know, she kind of attempts to become more unfeminine, to more brash, more like me, unfortunately. Which I hate. Just to like make it to where the guys aren't appealed to her as much. And it's all little subtle things that um you know a Western audience might not see as being like unfeminine, but like for Japanese standards it is. So she changes that to make sure that she doesn't have guys coming after her because she doesn't want that anymore. She's like heartbroken. Ko comes back a lot darker than he was before, and the entire series kind of focuses on them trying to battle between whether they should go back to the way they were and their ideas of how the other person was prior, as well as relearning who this person is. The thing that uh, gets me a lot on this one is when we learn of what changed Ko and why he left. Uh, God fucking damn it.
Yeah.
So Ko ended up moving because his mother and father, I believe, got divorced, and he goes to live with his mother, and his brother, his older brother, who is a teacher at the school, uh,
Yep.
is living with their father, and he ends up moving back because his mother passes away. And a lot of the grief that he is dealing with when he's coming back is just one because his mother just passed away, but
Mhm.
also because he kind of internalizes blaming himself for not taking care of her properly. And this is something that hit me really hard. Very quickly, I lived alone with my mother while she eventually passed away of cancer. All my older brothers and sisters were grown and moved out of the house, and I was the only one living there. And this is something that I have dealt with. And it's not something that is ever really talked about in media. Uh, and it's not something I ever really considered that how much I did it until I read this manga. Um, Realizing how much that can hold you back from a lot of things, and how much that can influence a lot of your decisions, and how much that can change you. So to see a character that like he's introduced as being very very young and very carefree and very very lighthearted and just your average young boy who's in love with a girl, and then he comes back and he's just tormented by this, and it's something that builds up longer and longer. And once you learn this, it makes a lot of sense for a lot of the actions that he makes and a lot of things he ends up saying to Futaba later on. But you don't realize it when he's saying it. And so when I initially read or watched the anime, I went back and read the manga, and it just, each scene hit me harder and harder every time. I'm like, I now understand why he's saying this, because I know where he's coming from. So this was something that helped me kind of work through with this. This was actually the manga that encouraged me to actually seek therapy, because my family, I grew up in a very sheltered household as well, and I was homeschooled for a long while my mother was sick, and my dad didn't believe in therapy. He's like, nah, we're adults, we deal with things on our own. I was still a kid when my mom died.
Mhm.
And as an adult reading this, like, I need to work through this. And so this is a manga that influenced me in my actual life to seek help and to come to terms with something that I had never voiced before. And this is the first time like an anime and a manga has hit me that hard to make such a big change in my life. And it's not something that's easy to talk about, because it has been it's been over a decade since I've worked through this, and it still hurts. And I've gone back and I've rewatched the anime, and it's still like it hits me harder than any other manga probably could. The only one that comes close to it is Komi-san, and that's just because I understand the difficulties of being mute and not being able to express yourself, which is, I almost put in here in place of this one, but this one relates to me a lot more on that front, because Komi gets really lighthearted after a while.
Yeah.
This doesn't.
No, this kind of keeps into that tone throughout, but it's kind of hard to remember that this has that
Yeah,
dark tone to it.
it does.
Because it is a very bright colored series.
It is, and it has so many really really cute moments between the two of them. That is why I'm able to, like, despite how much this hurts me and how much this like reminds me of something from my past, that I'm able to continue watching it and really really enjoy it, because the relationship between the two of them is so fucking cute. This is also one of the few series where they have, the token secondary romance characters to come fuck things up actually kind of makes sense in a way, because she has
Mhm.
this whole awkward moment where she accidentally grabs this dude's dick.
Yeah.
And he goes to her it was like they fell and her hand just happened to fall there, right? Very
Yeah.
coincidental. And she ends up running into him again, but it's at like a festival where she's there with Ko and their friends, and the guy comes up to her and he's just like, he wants to apologize and like tell her to forget about it. So he comes up to her and he's like, can we talk about that for a minute? And they go to the side, and he's just like, you can forget about that. I'm okay with just forgetting it. It was an accident. And she just freaks out. It's my first time though. I'm so sorry. And he's like, bro, no, just forget about it. Don't you realize I'm telling you to forget it? And Ko walks in so fucking jealous. Just like, how the fuck can you tell her to forget her first time? And then they have to explain this awkward situation to him. And I fucking love that scene so much. It makes me laugh. But it's because of moments like that that break up the tension of like what's actually going on, that make this series what it is. Because again, like, it has a very very dark past for one of the characters, um but at the same time it has everything that makes a good romance for me, and yeah, despite the fact that I can't make it through this anime without just bawling my eyes out. I love it, and it's helped me through a lot and in ways that I never expected in anime too.
This is actually coming to a huge surprise to me because I didn't know that at all.
Yeah,
I
it's not something that like you can really talk about normally.
Yeah.
So,
It's also making me second thoughts of what I recommended you to read.
oh
Um,
no,
I was like I was
oh
like,
no.
"Oh, shit. Oh, shit."
Well,
I was like, "Oh, oops."
uh,
Sorry. I'm sorry.
I haven't gotten
Uh,
there yet, so
yeah, that's why I'm like, I'm gonna say something about it right now. I think about
well, that's on you if you want to give me something else to read because I was just gonna wait till after you were done watching the thing because I can binge read it. So,
Yeah, I will. I mean, I'll get to what you recommended me,
mhm, yeah.
but yeah, it's so funny because like that's like the part of that anime though that I don't even think too much about. So the fact that that's what really means a lot to you is a makes me kind of rethink the series and makes me feel like it's a little more special than the opinion I had about it.
Hmm.
Um, but it also makes me wonder if you'd like their other works too.
I
Granted,
love
they
it.
probably won't they wouldn't be as, like, personal because I don't think they
Yeah.
have the same topic, but
Well, if there's
makes
an
me
anime
wonder.
version, it makes it easier.
Well, there is, but it's just not easily available for the one,
Yeah.
which sucks because I
Eh,
would like it because I like that one.
fair. What's your fourth pick?
Okay. Um, so this is completely, uh this would be a vibe check because this is, like, a complete change in tone
Hmm.
from your recommendations. So I picked because I thought you would pick this other title. I picked
Okay.
this one. Um, I don't know when, but I figured we'd talk about the other title another time, but I picked, called, The Gentleman's Alliance Cross.
No idea what that is.
So this is a series by Arina Tanemura.
Okay.
It is her follow-up series, after Full Moon.
Okay.
Um, so it's, like, has, like, the really pretty like, when you think of, like, shoujo manga art, like, this is the kinda art you think of.
Uh-huh.
That is what this author's art style is, and I love it because it's really pretty and really detailed, and there's a lot of thought that goes into it. Um, but Gentleman's Alliance Cross, I read really early on into manga, but it's also the series that kind of I don't know, I think it's my introduction to loving mess. Um, so essentially, because what it does is it covers Arina Tamura is really good at telling okay, so let me start off with what a Gentleman's Alliance Cross is kind of about. So
Hmm.
Gentleman's Alliance Cross is about this girl, her name's Haine, and she goes to this, like, rich people's school. So everyone who goes to this school is part of, like, some kind of rich business, old money, new money, um, and like, there's, like, some smaller business owners and, like, bigger business owners, and it goes to, like, a tier ranking system, a class system. So there's bronze, so it's just, like, people who are, like, daughters and sons of, like, maybe some small celebrities or small businesses, and then there's the silver class where, it's, like, the more wealthy people are silver, because they can pay a donation to school to become a silver student. You can also, go up and, like, earn points and move up to, like, the next sphere of student, um, because you get, like, better perks, like, you get, like, better cafeteria stuff, better that, but, like, it's important to explain the class system because it's not the focus of the series, like, it's just important to know, and then, like, there's the top person, who is the gold, and the only person whose gold is, like, the student council president. So this girl, she wanted to go to the school, because her dad, owns a business, and she, wants to be reunited with this guy called Shizumasa. And he is essentially to her, like, her savior. she was a previously she was a delinquent. This is all explained in like the first volume, first chapter. She essentially was a delinquent who had stuff happen, and so she just like would go out and fight and vent. And one of the kids who she met when she was younger reached out to her and was like, "You're so beautiful." And she's like, "No, I'm not. Like, I'm a terrible person. Like, I fight, I beat people up for shits and giggles." And he's like, "No, you're such a pure, beautiful soul because all you are is hurt." And he's like, "I would like to see you in the light." And so she's like, did everything she could. She like grew out her hair dye. She's like, "I want to be in the light. I want to change my life and to be able to meet him again and have him see me in the light and we can, be friends." Um, but when she goes to the school, she finds out he's not the same person that she knew. Like, he's very reserved, very quiet, very serious, doesn't smile often. But, and she's just like, "What happened?" And she tries to, like, watch over, but also because he's the student council president, because he's the student council president, um, she has, like, no classes with him because she's a bronze, and her best friend is a silver, who was also who, like, she hung out with while she was a delinquent, but her best friend wasn't a delinquent. She was just, like, a friend that she had.
Mhm.
Um, and it kinda goes through, like, her essentially stuff happens, and she's able to get a chance to join the student council bronze, and so now she's able to be close to this person, and, she at the end of chapter 1, she's just like, "I can be closer to him, and, like, maybe eventually he'll look at me and, we could be like a couple or something." And then she stumbles upon, this him and finds out that he might possibly be gay.
Oh.
And now that is I'm not gonna go on further because there's a lot more going on in the story.
Mhm.
Um, it's not a series I'm gonna preface it, it's not a series that handles LGBTQ stuff with a delicate hand, I should say. It doesn't really handle it in a way that people would be very happy about today.
Mhm.
Um, it is an older series, but this was kind of like my first introduction to seeing gay representation in media outside of Glee. Outside of
Oh
Glee.
god.
Um, because that's where I really saw it. But this is the first time I really saw it in manga.
Mhm.
Because this is before I really before like I dove into yaoi. Um, and to me that was like, wow, like revolutionary to me because um as we mentioned a lot before this, like we were pretty sheltered. So I don't know. When I was younger, like I didn't think gay people were real.
Fair.
I didn't think
Catholic
they were
school
real
do that.
until I like until I entered a regular middle school.
Mhm.
And when I entered the regular middle school, that's when like Glee came out and everyone was talking about Glee, Glee, Glee. And they're like, "Oh, because there's gay people in it." And I'm like, "Gay people are real?" And I got weird looks. They're like, "Yeah." I don't know. Like they don't talk about that where I went to school.
Fair.
So, so this was my first time writing into it in manga because around this time I bought this manga. And it was really interesting seeing that because it's not a but there is also transgenderness in it and things like that. But like I said, it is my first introduction. It's like I said, it's not handled with the same delicate hand that you would want something to be handled like this.
Mhm.
But this story goes through so many shifts and puzzles because we focus on Hana and like why she became a delinquent, like what her problem is. We find out what Shizumasa Sama's deal is, and that is a whole hot mess of a situation, and
Oh
I love
boy.
it. Her best friend has a whole deal, as well. And then there's 2 other members of the student council, which is the person who she thinks is his gay lover. Um, his whole deal, he doesn't have too much of a big deal, he just has a small deal. And then there's the other student council member, Maura, who is, the reason why she ended up being able to join the student council. And it's kind of about her trying to do that and, like, accumulating the student council and with this reputation that she has at this, like, rich people's school, dealing through their trauma, but they have so many, like, interrelations and situations, and it's so messy. but at the same time, it's still very coherent, and it's a very fun, wild journey, which is it gives you whiplash. Like, you read one chapter, you're like, "Whiplash." You read the next chapter, whiplash. It's a I call it whiplash the manga. Um, but what what really it is it kinda made me, like, really like stories where there's a lot going on, and it's very convoluted and difficult to explain.
Mhm.
So it made me really kinda like those kinda stories, and things that are a little bit messy, but it also was, like, my first introduction to seeing LGBTQ representation in manga and anime.
Okay.
'Cause, like, I think, like, there's stuff like that that I've seen before, but it's not, like, explicitly been like, "This is this." This is, like, the first time where it's just, like, spelled out to me. It's like,
Right.
"This is this." This is not something I have to infer or read too much into, it is like, "This is this."
That's
This is
fair.
this. Um, but, um, I don't know, like, that just it really influenced, like, because what it did is it normalized it for me. So I'm
Mhm.
like, "Oh, okay." Like, because you watch Glee, but I didn't know anyone that was like that at the time.
Mhm.
So, to me, it was just, like, still in fiction, but it was, like, in, like, a high school setting where, like, things are, like, "Oh my god, dramatic," and people are singing, and it kinda takes you out of that, like,
Right.
realistic aspect of it sometimes. While I had, like, really real stories, none of them were really relatable. This one's not relatable either, but, like,
Mm.
this one was the first one where I was like, "Oh, so, like, it's in anime and manga as well," and
Yeah.
it kinda opened up to me reading more things that had that kind of story, and now it's like, I really love LGBTQ stories
Right.
uh, and reading about them and relating with them and interacting with that community.
Right. It's it's interesting because it's like for me it's a very very different thing because um so my oldest sister, most of her friend group were gay and lesbians in some way, and then I also have an older sister who is lesbian. So it was always something that I like. There was never really a part in my life where like I don't know this exists. Um, it was something that was very prevalent in my life. Even if I was sheltered, it was like, okay, I can't really escape my sister's friends or anything like that. I get pawned off on her a lot where they're like, yeah, you going out, take your sister with you. And then they just make me sit in the living room while they go in the back room and do drugs. But, you know, so the lovely of being the sheltered kid in a household of other kids that weren't sheltered. But my parents really tried to double down to make sure I didn't turn out like by my sisters by making me hang out with my sisters. Brilliant logic. But yeah, I was a little Glee was really late for me as well, so
Yeah.
I stopped watching American television by the time Glee had became a thing, I think. So,
Yeah. Glee was weird because, like, it came out when I was at my, like, Catholic school, but
mhm.
I didn't hear about it until I moved to public school.
Yeah, I was already watching Yaoi by then.
Yeah, and I wasn't. Like, I think I, like at that point, I knew what yaoi was. It was so funny, I actually have a Matt when I because like, when I first was buying manga, like, I knew a little bit about manga, but not a lot.
Mhm.
I just knew that yaoi was, like I knew yaoi was yaoi, but I didn't read it or consume it because, uh, I didn't it wasn't, something I was comfortable with at the time because I didn't know it, and, like, I didn't understand it because
Mhm.
it wasn't like it was, like where I mean, like, I didn't understand it was just, like, it was such a new foreign territory that I
Yeah.
was like, I don't know about that." Like, I just knew what it was. And my mom, she's very, like, so far removed from anime, manga, knows absolutely nothing about it.
Mhm.
We were going through the aisles, and she'd pick up books. She's like, "This one looks really cute. What about this one?" And she, like, hands me a saran wrapped yaoi where, like,
Oh
one of
no.
the leads on the cover you could tell was, like, more androgynous,
Uh-huh.
and I knew what it was, and I'm like, "Mom, put that back." Like, A, 'cause it's definitely it's in Saran Wrap, it's definitely 18 plus, and I'm, like, what, 14? Like,
Yeah.
15 maybe? Not even, and I'm like, You're gonna wanna put this back because it's I don't think you realize what you just picked up, Mom. You picked up a
Yeah.
yaoi. And now I'm like, as I'm older, I'm like, "Man, I should have just let her buy that for me. Damn it." But,
Uh,
but yeah, instead of buying that, she I got Fruits Basket that day, so
fair.
that worked
I
out.
do want to fact check myself because I just googled when Glee came out, which was 2009, and apparently
Mhm.
I'm wrong. I was well, yes, I did watch Yaoi before 2009. The two yaoi that I had watched in 2009 were Descendants of Darkness and Mirage of Blaze. And for the watchers that aren't familiar with this story, I watched both of those on TV because they came on local television for me and did not realize they were gay or yaoi or that somebody's hands went down somebody's pants and I shouldn't have been watching that at that age. Until I was older and rewatched it and when I was 25. So,
And you were like,
I don't think that
"Oh,
really counts anymore. So, I'm going to retract my entire statement before about yeah, I was watching yaoi by
okay."
then because yeah, I
Oh,
did watch it, but I had no idea what the fuck I was watching.
okay, so then Glee did come out when I was in 8th grade. Okay. So
Mhm.
it was just coming out. It wasn't already out.
Yeah.
No, wait. Yeah, it had just come out and I was hearing about it, but I didn't watch it until, like, later on, after there's a few episodes already out.
Fair, fair.
Um, because everyone was talking about it and I was still trying to integrate into a normal middle school
Mhm.
situation as a weeb. I think that's when I also entered my bleach phase. Yeah, it was. I entered my bleach phase.
You're still in
Um,
your bleach phase. Have you seen your Discord message, ma'am?
wait. What did I send you? What?
No, and your fucking tag on your
Oh, yeah, but it was, like, bad then. It was real bad. Like, that's when I was reading Bleach for the first time, and, like, I, like, every day I would sneak to, like, the cafe like, because I didn't eat at the cafeteria because I didn't have people to sit with, so I just went to the computer lab. This is so sad. So I just went to the computer lab, which was my next class anyways, and I would
Mhm.
just sit through lunch eating, like, my little, like, cookie that I had for lunch, and then, reading Bleach. I would just continue reading Bleach from where I left off, and that's what I did every single lunch, is I just
Fair,
read
fair.
Bleach, on sites that I shouldn't have been reading it on.
Oh,
But now I
as
own
we
all
did
of it,
back
so
then.
it's fine. Yeah, as we did back then. Especially when you're, like, poor and you're well, I'm in 8th grade, like, I don't have any money.
Right.
But, um but now it's like, no, I have all that now, so
Yep. The glories of being an adult.
yes, you can buy all the stuff that you read when you were a child and be like, "I couldn't support you then, but I can support you now. Thank
Yep.
you for your patience."
Thank God they're doing reprints.
Thank God. It's like it's like, "Don't hate me.
Mm.
I wanna support you. Now I can." And
Right.
that's why I have as much manga as I have. So,
Oh my gosh.
uh, but yeah, that was mine. And now I love full previous work before this.
Mhm.
Um, and, but they handle sensitive situations, they handle them okay, but they also the way they use them in storytelling, they use them as a plot device more so as something that than just something to be explored.
Okay.
That's kinda how she does it, but she handles, like she's very like, it's not episodic, but she handles things and they're very, like maybe 2 chapters is considered, like, an arc or, like, 3 chapters.
Mhm.
Even when, like, she was writing full same thing, but Gentleman's Alliance Cross, because it's longer, it's, like, where you really kind of feel that because 'cause you're like, it's only 12 volumes, but so much happens and in such a short period of time.
Right.
And it's an absolute wild ride. Um, I definitely want to make a YouTube video about Gentleman's Alliance Cross at some point and just go full spoiler open, out in
Right.
the open. Uh,
I mean, that could be a thing.
oh god, it'd be a lot of fun.
So, do you have any idea what my last one is?
No, because part of me was like, "I wonder if she picked Full Moon." I don't know if she did or not, but I'm like, "I don't know if that would be, like, influential on her or not." So I do not know what your last one is.
No, I did almost put a magical girl on here, but it was not full moon.
Yeah.
It is what I consider to be for me the best romance anime that I have ever watched. That is Say I Love You.
Suki-tte! Naya! Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good
Um,
one.
I chronologically I would have put this one before Blue Spring Ride, but I didn't. This one's a lot less heavy than Blue Spring Ride's explanation was gonna be, so I moved this one to the end. Um,
Mhm.
so Say I Love You follows Mei and Yamato, who polar opposites for one. She's very much the she was bullied when she was younger, and that traveled up to her high school years, to where like now nobody talks to her. She's kind of viewed as being a freak. She doesn't speak to anybody. She doesn't really like do anything socially with anybody. She just avoids everyone in her class. Where Yamato is the complete opposite. He is the essentially most popular boy in the entire school. He's also known for like making his way around with all the ladies.
Yes.
But one thing that I think that sold me on this, before I wasn't really like too sold on romance shows. Like all the romance stuff I had read or watched, I watched them not because of the romance. Like Nana, Fruits Basket, I'm not watching those for the romance. I'm watching them for the characters themselves. The romance is just like an added bonus. Um, so one thing this does right is it kicks off with the actual romance, the actual relationship right off the bat.
It really does kick off.
Yes, and I will get to this, and this is why I love May so much. Okay, so this is where it gets a little personal for me, because when I first came out of like not speaking and starting to like, even before I went mute, I believe I was kind of quiet and I kind of kept to myself a lot. But whenever I was put in a situation where I didn't know how to handle it, or like, I remember this is really cringe. I was in like middle school. I think it was my sixth grade year, sixth or seventh. It was right before I went to homeschooling. We took the bus with like, they picked up the middle school kids, and then we'd also pick up high school kids right after. And we had assigned seating, and the guy that shared a seat with me was a high schooler. This was a very, very tiny town, by the way. Extremely small. Like, you know everybody in this town. And the guy constantly would talk to the guy behind him in his seat. And one of the days, he was turning around to talk to his buddy, and he put his arm, like, on the back of the seat, which was, kind of behind me, which was really uncomfortable for me. And I blew up at him. I was just like immediately like slapped his hand away, flipped him off, like, what the fuck are you doing, asshole? And that was kind of a normal reaction for me, even after like getting back into public school. Like whenever I was confronted with something, like I thought somebody was making fun of me, or so I felt like somebody was like taking advantage of like my situation, I would
Mhm.
kind of lash out. And that's what May does, because
Yes.
their meeting is, she drops something, I believe. I think she drop her phone or something?
Uh,
Because
I don't remember.
I remember she was
It's been a
going
while.
up the stairs, and Yamato's below, and he goes up to her, and she thinks he's trying to lift up her skirt or something, and she kicks him down the stairs in like freak out.
Yes.
And you know, I saw it and I was like, I understand. I get it. I get it. And she has kind of outbursts like that quite a bit very early in the series. It kind of goes away very quickly, which I think,
Yeah.
again, one of the things this does right. So they start into the relationship, and it's very much a show or a manga that revolves around how each of the individuals has to grow as a person, not just together, but individually, because she has
Yes.
to learn that how to express herself without doing such savage outbursts, and how to like express herself in any kind of way, really, because she's never had to really do that before. And he has to learn that uh he's kind of used to just this play act of just giving the girls what they want. They ask for a kiss, he gives them a kiss. He just does what they ask him to do. He has to learn how to understand what she wants without her literally begging for it, you know? And he has to learn that like some things just aren't okay. Some things just, there are boundaries here that you have to abide by. And they find a good medium. She finds a way to communicate with him without her having to physically say it. The very infamous her pulling the tie scene. Love it. But and he kind of learns like, okay, you're okay with just like spending time with me and like just working this out. And you don't want the superficial stuff. You just want, to actually spend time with me, kind of thing. And it's little bitty moments that build up over time as you see they get closer together. You see the growth between both of them, both individually and as a couple, and how they interact with each other's families as well, because she ends up meeting his little sister, who also has her own problems.
Yes.
And it's a very heartwarming story to see their relationship bloom while also their characters get fully fleshed out in a way.
No, I think Say I Love You is a really good series for all the points that you talked about. It does have really good character growth, really real character growth, and it shows that there's not always an easy path to a means to an end. So
right.
no matter what that ending is.
But yeah, and I enjoy this series, and it's my staple for what I want with series. It's why I stay away from shit like Kaguya-sama and your token romance Sadako one that.
Kimi ni Todoke?
Yeah, because I'm like,
no.
I don't enjoy if there's no actual romance in it. It's just like, okay,
there
it's
is.
in game.
There is actual romance in it. And you see it. You won't see it. It doesn't happen in the anime. That happens.
I read the manga. It ends.
Did you?
They only kiss once, don't they?
No, they bang. Like they straight up bang.
I literally, I got like, I might have quit before they got to the bang because I think it took way too many chapters for them to finally kiss, and I was like, okay, I'm done.
It took a long. Like it is like halfway through before they get to that point. But then they discuss why it got to that point.
Okay.
And they go into that.
I think I lost interest way before then because I'm like, okay, this is taking too long. That's why I'm like, people are like, oh yeah, Kaguya-sama says a great romance. I'm like, it took them 3 seasons.
Okay. Kaguya-sama is like a romance that you got. It's more comedy than romance.
Yeah. That's why I'm also really, really nervous about Dress Up Darling, because if they don't end up together in second season,
I'll keep you posted.
You've read the manga, you know whether like
I will keep you posted.
You know.
So I'll let you know when we get there.
Yeah. Okay, so it's not gonna happen next season. Got understood.
So
because
keep you posted.
Because I was really, really happy with Dress Up Darling episode 11, and then episode 12 took like 9 steps back, and I'm like, okay, if they don't cement this in the first couple episodes of season 2, I'm out.
Oh yeah, no, they don't.
Okay, so we're good. Not probably not gonna finish that one then, because as much as I like a good romance, but I don't like the like, okay, are we gonna do it? Nah. Are we gonna do it? Nah. Are we gonna do it? Nah. Like, there's only so many times that can happen for me before I'm just like, all right, somebody needs a pair of balls in this relationship, and I'm not gonna be the one to do it.
Yeah. So they're building up to it right now. It's just because there's a lot of cosplay stuff they have to get through. Like we're almost there. We are literally like a day or two away from Christmas in the current manga, and that is where things are changing.
Right.
So and yeah. And it's not even like a will they, won't they at this point. It's like he's gotten so engrossed in the hobby, kind of like forgotten his feelings
Oh
to
god,
a
that's
point.
horrible. I
So
hate
he's just
it.
like obviously like there's still that there, but he's like
Yeah,
so engrossed in what he's doing right now, and Maureen is straight up like, I can't do this anymore. She's like, I can't do this anymore. So
right.
it's gonna happen. Something's going to happen, and I don't know what's gonna happen, but something is going to happen with that.
Fair.
They just,
Uh,
we're not there yet.
cool. I'm not gonna watch second season then,
Yeah.
because that's just gonna frustrate me, and I'm just like,
Yeah,
cause
that's why I just outright told you because I was like, "Oh, I'm just
yeah,
done." Because
yeah, cause my idea of a romance, actual romance, happens and develops, and if it's like, if that doesn't develop at all, or if it takes too long for it to develop, then I take it as it doesn't happen. It at this point, most of the manga is not about their actual romance, and it's more of a slice of life, in my opinion. And I don't like slice of life.
I I mean, I like slice of life.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's a I don't know. I like both. I like that both bring something new to the table because I feel like there's always a lot of like complication in the build up. I love the build up to relationships. Like even when I'm like dating, like that's my favorite part is like the build up to like, are we gonna date? Are we not? Like that's
Oh,
like
I hate
my
that.
favorite part.
I hate that so
And then
much.
after that, that's when I kind of like start losing interest.
Yeah.
Uh, which is so bad because like that's not when you're supposed to start losing interest.
Yeah.
But like when I'm reading manga, sometimes I want to watch that play out, and sometimes I don't. It just depends. But okay, I always want to watch it play out. So like if something just like ends, I am upset.
Yeah.
Um, if at least if you give me some good things to go with it, I'll typically be okay.
I suppose. I don't know. There's a point where like if things get dragged out too much, because I like a good build up for it, as long as the build up's like, okay, this is submitting the chemistry between the two of them, and like kind of setting some groundwork. Because Blue Spring Ride, they don't immediately start dating,
No,
but
they do take a bit before they
yeah,
do because she even like completely dates someone else.
yeah, uh that's more of a story about like the two of them kind of growing into themselves as well. So that's something I can understand. Um, but for something where it's like, okay, this is sold as a romance first and foremost, uh, and the romance happens in 30 chapters. Yeah, you have a slice of life that
Yeah,
has a tinge of romance towards the end. Just sell it that, and then I'll be less angry about it.
yeah. It It's kind of funny because, like, when it comes to Sojo, all of the super long running ones
Mm-hmm.
are the ones where, like, the romance happens really late in it. But
Uh-huh.
all the ones that are, like, around, like, that 12 volume sweet spot, usually they get together, like, in the beginning. It's
Yeah.
with a few exceptions,
Mm-hmm.
Um, and really it's really interesting seeing that.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm very picky on my romance at this point. Like I like it, but
I'm aware. I'm
it's
aware.
it's like it's either gotta like I don't know. I've got to actually be invested in the characters and what's going on if you're not gonna actually give me romance. Um, and if I'm not invested in the characters, give me trash. Give me Scum's Wish or Domestic Girlfriend, and I'll watch that. But if you're gonna pass this off as like, oh, a nice heartwarming vanilla romance series, and the romance hasn't happened yet, my ship has sailed. I am shonen horror. Give me fight scenes.
I I don't know. This is where like I like being able to take that and like imagining my own scenarios on that.
Yeah,
So
I like that too. I just don't like doing it for 30 chapters. I'd rather do it for like a season at most. Like give me a season of Dress Up Darling where they're not together, and then give me the second season where like there's actual development between the two of them instead of backpedaling. Because yeah, like I said, Dress Up Darling had a winning formula for me up until episode 12. And then I was like, oh, they did it this way. I have a bad feeling about season 2.
yeah, but and it's sad because like a lot of the stuff that's getting anime adaptations is stuff where they backpedal,
I know.
and
Like,
it's like the stuff that doesn't is the stuff where they don't. I mean, if you want like a romance that dives right in at the beginning, you could always like watch Tonikawa or like Fly Me to the Moon. Just dives right into the romance.
I want to say like the only one that I was able to power through where like they didn't have romance develop very early was Horimiya. And
Well, even that was, it wasn't like super early, but it was still pretty.
yeah, it took a minute though, and it
Mhm.
really pushed the limits for me. The only reason I continued reading it was because he's hot, really hot.
Really
Um,
hot.
yeah, but I was really happy with the anime adaptation because it just breezed right through that. So
Yeah, the anime breeze, like it really condensed the plot storyline, and then it took away more of the slice of lifey
yeah,
chapters, which some people were upset about. But now since we have the second thing coming out, that's gonna kind of fill in all those gaps. It's like it doesn't really matter. But
yeah,
also, I think it's funny they timelined the whole anime to be like in 1 year instead of like the 3 years it covered.
I'm fine with that too.
I thought that was funny.
Yeah. This is off topic of anime, but is right along the lines of trashy romance.
Oh,
Did you hear they're making a television series of Twilight?
yeah, I heard. Um, I'm ready. I'm upset about this because while we cloud on Twilight a lot, I'm a-okay with the movies that we have.
I am not.
I mean, like, I don't want more Twilight. Like, I'm content with the fact that we have the movies with the way they are. I don't
I
need more Twilight.
the only reason I would want more Twilight, and it's gonna highly depend on how they do it, is can we not have sparkle vamps, please? Because I am so sick. Because I've read the books. I don't think the books are good. I don't think they're bad, but I don't think they're fucking good. But I am so sick of anytime somebody comes into my apartment and sees all 4 books on my shelf, and they're immediately like, "Oh, you like the glitter vampires?" Like, please,
I mean, I have
please.
all 4 books on my shelf. I went to the midnight release party of the final book.
Same.
Yeah, let's
I
go.
I have first releases for the last 3 books. I don't have a, and I even have Midnight Sun, the newest one. Haven't read it, but I have it.
Yeah, I ended up not buying Midnight Sun. Um,
I even have her other series, her other book, The Host. Was
oh,
pretty okay.
yeah, my friend read The Host, and I chose not to read it.
I
But
think it's better than Twilight.
I I don't think you realize the hardcore Twilight phase I went through.
You you don't think I went through a fucking Twilight phase? Excuse me.
We both went through.
I was
What,
just
like?
not on the movie phase because that came out when I was like older, I
Oh
guess.
yeah. Well,
So
because I was at the end of the Twilight train
yeah.
because like I literally read the first 3 books like maybe a month or 2 before the final book came out.
Mm-hmm.
And then the movies came out a year later. And that's
Yeah.
like when in the middle of me moving, and that was like the only connection, like big connection I had back with my friends at home. And so like I was like I had like the Twilight like bed cover. I had like the posters everywhere. I had a tote bag that I brought to school. I had like a t-shirt. I have pictures of me on vacation wearing like this Twilight t-shirt. I had to stop wearing it because people would come up to me and point out their favorite Twilight characters, and it'd poke me in the boob
Oh
like every
God.
single time they pointed it. I had to stop wearing the shirt. I had I have so much Twilight shit like in boxes that I'm like,
See,
why do I have all this?
we were very different Twilight phases because so I got into Twilight before the second book was even released.
Okay, you got into
Um,
really early
yeah,
then.
I read the first book, and it was in the school library, and then I went and bought it. And then I was there for when the second book got released, and the third book, and then the fourth book, and then the movies got announced.
Yeah.
And the movies were actually what initially killed my hype for Twilight because I was so on board. I had friends that were also they loved the Twilight books too, and we were all like reading them together, and we were talking about them online, and gushing over like different scenes and stuff like that. But then the movies got announced, and every teeny bopper who had never picked up a book before in their life was like, "Oh, I've totally read this book before." They had not read that book before. There were so many fake, and this is me hating fandoms. There were so many fake fans that were coming up and being like, "Oh yeah, I've been a huge fan of the book for so long." Clearly has not read anything about the book. They are of the same vein as the person that probably saw Bleach and thought it was about a jerk named Ichigo Strawberry fighting demons. It is that is the epitome of what they know about Twilight and probably Bleach because they knew nothing until the movie was released, and then some of them actually went and read the books. They only know this because my ex, my first ex, he had 3 sisters. All of them were diehard Twilight fans when those movies came out. Only one of them had read the first book, and then she read the other books after the movie came out because she actually liked it.
Mhm.
But the other ones knew nothing, and they claimed they knew so much. They're like, "Oh, I've been a fan for this longest fucking time." Meanwhile, they've got the newest version of the book. Like,
Oh, not even the original covers?
no.
No.
Uh, the the thing that uh sold them out was the fact that they had Twilight in hardcover. Which, if you have first edition of that, it didn't. It only came out in paperback initially.
Mhm.
So, but yeah. So they were like that. All their friends were like that. Everyone I saw at the movie theater was like, this was when I was working at the mall, by the way. So I had to deal with it full front because the mall had the movie theater in it.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, and I was just like, I was gatekeeping. I'm not gonna lie, I was fucking gatekeeping. Like, you bitches are in here trying to be like Team Edward, Team Jacob when you don't even know who the fuck Jacob is yet. Who the fuck are you talking about? And then like of course all the people that wanted to hate on him like, oh, Sparkle Vamps, Sparkle Vamps. I'm like, okay, can we have the middle of the road where there's actually the people that know what the fuck they're talking about that can actually argue against these people because this is hurting me.
I just wanna say props to the marketing team to make it blow up to that fact, like, Team Edward, Team Jacob, when no one knew what Jacob was. Like,
I
props to
know.
the marketing people for that movie, 'cause that had to take a lot of skill to do,
It
even
did.
though it was, like, a disaster for everyone else. Um, but that like, props to the marketing team because they really started something.
And they really did. Uh I hated it, but yeah, so I'm on the fence on a Twilight series. I think it would be better because they can do more of what wasn't covered in the books. Maybe they can actually do the internal dialogue a little bit better, and not have them walking on treadmills. Um, and please, no glitter vamps. Please, just no glitter vamps. Hey, that's all I want. I also want an Edward that doesn't look like he's 30. But
Ye I don't know, I'm like, I just don't want another Twilight series because I don't know, like, it's not like I love the movies. Well, like, my experience with the movies is that I think they're very fun to watch in a cinematography kinda way. Um,
I can't watch the last one. CGI baby
oh
freaks me
oh,
out.
no, I'm talking about, like, the first one. I'm, like, strictly speaking about, like, the first one.
I can
Um,
only watch the second and the third.
really.
Yeah,
I
I can't sit through the first or the last one.
I mean, when they dropped on Netflix, I went and I watched, like, the whole all the I, like, dropped everything I was doing, ignored everyone, and watched the 4 or 5 Twilight movies. And then it was so funny. I came home and my parents are watching the final one, like, "Wow, you were watching some very violent movies." I'm like, "You're watching the 4th, aren't you? This is the 4th
Oh
movie."
no.
Oh, okay. Well, can I spoil this for you guys? And they looked at me and they're like, "What?" I'm like, "This isn't real. Bye."
I will say, however, because since I was working in the mall at the time, I was
Mhm.
there for the final movie release, and I was
Yeah.
in the theater, and it was comical.
Ugh,
The outrage that was happening in that theater when that scene started playing out, because we there were people walking out that were legitimately mad, like they ruined the book. Like people were cursing it out where I lived, being like, "I can't believe they fucking did this. They fucking ruined it. I can't believe they did this." And they left, and then people
you're
were
like,
standing through, and then like it got revealed that it wasn't real, and people were like, "Oh my fucking god, they didn't just fucking do that." And I'm like, "Oh, I live
I'm
for
not
that
gonna
part."
lie though, that made the movie bearable to sit through because the last book was really hard for me to read because I got
CGI baby,
bored in
man.
it.
CGI baby. I can't.
Yeah. I mean,
Oh,
other than that, yeah, no, that's a whole other thing. That's a
yeah.
whole other thing. But like when it came to that part though, I was so bored reading that. So like watching that, I was like, "Oh, I'm awake again. Awesome." And then it was like, "Haha, it's not real."
Yeah.
And I was like, but I just remember like watching it and being like, this doesn't happen in the books. What the
Mm-hmm.
hell? Huh. So,
I was always a big fan of like I read a lot of very very shitty vampire uh teenage novels
I mean,
in
there
my
was a
day.
lot at the time.
Yep, and Twilight wasn't even the worst one I read.
No.
And it's not even the worst one I own. I don't want to even get into the Stake That series or the Vampire Kisses series. Ugh. I needed help when I was a child. Maybe I shouldn't judge you for Watamote.
It's okay. And then like it was so funny because in like at least my age group, like everyone who liked Twilight, who either was getting into anime or watched anime, all jumped on Vampire Knight. It was like immediate like Twilight to Vampire Knight, like no transition, like boom.
Amazing dub, by the way.
No. I stand by what I said.
I stand by what I said. You know what? I'm gonna watch it in the dub.
You can
I'm
do
gonna
that.
rewatch it.
I will respect your ability to watch what you love in the comfort of your own home.
I'm gonna hate every fucking minute of it.
Uh,
Uh, mostly because Kaname is there. Fuck.
he is there. Yeah. Yeah. You know what's so funny
Hmm.
is since we made that clip, I've been recommended a lot more like Vampire Night um TikToks recently in my feed, and I'm like, what the fuck? Why am I getting all these Vampire Night
Oh my
clips in
god.
my TikTok feed? I'm like, what? I think it's the fault of that one.
I God. TikTok. It's a mistake.
Ticketh talketh.
All right, you want to take us out of here? Cause I want to go to bed.
Yeah. I feel that. I also we've just been like tangenting. I mean, I think we just totally lost all sense of like
Oh,
of
it's. I'm gonna
reality.
have fun editing this down because this is 3.5 hours.
Sorry. um, but yeah, so this was the Rice Ball Conflict podcast. I'm Shio, and this is Cyan. I just realized I did not introduce ourselves.
That's fine.
Um,
You sang for us. We're good.
um, and you can find us on Twitter at RaceCon Podcast on Twitter, and then we're on Spotify. You said we're on Google Podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you can find me on Twitter under Lady Shio, and you can find Cyan under Cyan_Cade.
Mm-hmm.
And we have YouTube's as channels as well. We don't really update them, but we might now. So
One day,
keep
maybe.
one day, one day.
Uh,
I plan to, but I'm not sure how soon I'll
go
get to
go
that.
check out the TikTok. Go
Yeah,
follow
go
us.
check out our
You'll
TikToks. We're trying to make some more clips. I have been slacking on that. Uh,
Somebody's been playing too much Star Rail.
you know what? I didn't think it was gonna be good, and then I enjoyed it far too much.
I can't
Um,
get into it because all the male characters just look like isekai protagonists.
the one character looks like Aizen, I'm sorry. I just I gotta do it.
Oh my god.
But anyways, so it was lovely. Thank you for listening, guys. We love you, and, I'm gonna go play more Star Rail.
I'm gonna go fucking sleep and hopefully not dream of Watamote bullshit.
Oh, yeah, and I'm gonna go to Walmart and buy that ranch ice cream because apparently it's being sold for that.
Excuse me?
Yeah, right?
Ranch ice cream. What in the Midwest fuck did you just say?
Yeah, there's ranch flavored ice cream. I totally wanna
Oh,
try it.
I'm ending recording right here. Bye.